face working-class families across America, especially in struggling Rust Belt communities and small Appalachian towns that have been hollowed out by lost jobs and lost hope. Families who for generations kept our lights on and our factories running. Together we can break down barriers for our kids so they get the education they need and deserve. Every child in America should have a great school and a great teacher, no matter what zip code they live in. Together, we can break down barriers for women and finally guarantee equal pay for equal work. We can break down barriers for families who've seen too many black children harassed, humiliated, and even killed. We can break down barriers for voters in North Carolina who've been systematically disenfranchised and disempowered. We can break down barriers for hardworking immigrants everywhere who are too often exploited and intimidated. We have to defend all our rights, workers' rights and women's rights, civil rights and voting rights, LGBT rights and rights for people with disabilities. And that starts by standing with President Obama when he nominates a strong, progressive justice to the Supreme Court. I know too many Americans have lost faith in our future. We hear it in the voices of parents who don't know how they're going to give their kids the opportunities they deserve. We see it in the eyes of working men and women who don't expect anything to come easy, but wonder why it has to be quite so hard. Like many of you, I find strength and purpose in the values I learned from my family and my faith. They gave me simple words to live by, an old Methodist saying, do all the good you can for all the people you can for as long as you can. And that is why. That is why I believe deeply that if we resist the forces trying to drive us apart, we can come together to make this country work for everyone, the struggling, the striving, and the successful. If we all do our part, we can restore our common faith in our common future. That's the spirit powering this campaign. It comes from the young janitor in Arkansas who stopped buying junk food and put off getting a haircut so he could contribute to it. It comes from the disabled combat veteran from Nebraska who sent in $10. In 70 years of his life, he had never donated to a political campaign until now. You can join us too. Please go to HillaryClinton.com, make a donation, text JOIN to 47246, and let me leave you with a story that has inspired so many of us. By now, we all know what happened in Flint, Michigan, don't we? How a city's children were poisoned by toxic water because their governor wanted to save a little money. But there's another story in Flint. It's a story of a community that's been knocked down but refused to be knocked out. It is hundreds of union plumbers coming from across the country to help install new water fixtures. It's students raising funds for water deliveries and showing up to distribute supplies. It's the United Auto Workers and General Motors donating millions of dollars to help. And when I visited Flint a few weeks ago, I went to the House of Prayer Missionary Baptist Church. The congregation locked arms and sang, We've come too far from where we started from. They're not about to quit now. We know there are many other Flints out there, communities that are hurting and need help. But we've come too far in this country to let us turn back. We're going to build on the progress that we've made. We saved the auto industry thanks to President Obama. Now we've got to create new jobs and industries of the future. We now have insured 90% of Americans thanks to President Obama. Now we've got to finish the job and get to 100%. We have come too far to stop now. We've got to keep going, keep working, keep breaking down those barriers, and imagine what we can build together when each and every American has the chance to live up to his or her own God-given potential. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
Very big night for Hillary Clinton. She's already won. We've projected 6 states. You saw it on the air as we were listening to Hillary Clinton. CNN projects in Texas right now. Hillary Clinton will carry the state of Texas in the Democratic presidential primary. Ted Cruz, the sitting senator from Texas, he will win the Republican primary in Texas. His first win of the night. Hillary Clinton wins in Texas. Ted Cruz wins in Texas. Let's take a look at some of the votes actually coming in from Texas right now. On the Democratic side, 19% of the vote has been counted. She's got a sizable lead. Hillary Clinton with 66.6%. Bernie Sanders only 31.5%. We have projected Hillary Clinton wins Texas. On the Republican side, a bit closer, but Ted Cruz is the winner. A third of the Republican vote is now in. Ted Cruz with 39.2%. Donald Trump with 28.2%. 19% for Marco Rubio. We've got some more votes coming in right now. First, on the Republican side, let's take a look at this. In Oklahoma right now, Ted Cruz slightly ahead of Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. 33.8% for Cruz, 30% for Donald Trump, 23.7% for Marco Rubio. Very close, a third of the vote, 37% of the vote is in Oklahoma. In Arkansas, only 12% of the vote is in, but Donald Trump has a slight lead right now. Donald Trump with 32.5%, Marco Rubio 29.5%, Ted Cruz slightly behind, 25.2%. That's in Arkansas right now. Take a look at Vermont right now, the Republican contest there. Donald Trump maintaining his lead, but only a quarter of the vote is in, 33.2% for Trump. John Kasich with 30.5%, Marco Rubio 19%. Let's take a look at the Democratic side right now. The contest still outstanding. In Massachusetts, Hillary Clinton maintaining a slight lead with 20% of the vote is in. 50.7% for Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders 48%. That's in Massachusetts. In Oklahoma, Bernie Sanders maintains his lead, 51.4% to Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton with 40.8%. 38% of the vote is now in. Let's take a look at the states won right now on the Democratic and Republican side. First, the Republican side, Donald Trump. He's got 5 big wins so far tonight. Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia. 5 wins for Donald Trump. 6 wins for Hillary Clinton so far tonight. Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. Ted Cruz carries his home state of Texas. That was anticipated. Bernie Sanders carries his home state of Vermont. That was anticipated as well. Those are the states that have been projected so far by CNN. We're watching, we're waiting to hear from Donald Trump, by the way. He's getting ready. He's in Palm Beach, Florida right now. He's going to be speaking shortly. We'll, of course, have live coverage of Donald Trump. He's won several of these states already. Jake.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Wolf. I suspect with Ted Cruz having won or being projected to have won his home state of Texas, which is a bigger win than Bernie Sanders winning Vermont, let's be honest, just because of the sheer number of delegates. I suspect what we're going to hear from Ted Cruz this evening will be a call for all of the other candidates, except for Donald Trump, of course, to drop out of the race so that Cruz can defeat Donald Trump. I think that is likely what you're going to hear, and there's going to be a big push from Cruz allies to the Washington establishment. Okay, you don't get to pick Marco Rubio, you don't get to pick Scott Walker or Jeb Bush. It's come down to Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. You need to get in line if you want to defeat Donald Trump.
That's right. And there's no question in talking to Rubio sources that you're going to hear pretty much the same kind of argument from Marco Rubio. But it will probably be harder for him to give that argument if he doesn't come in second. You know, numbers put them aside, if he doesn't come in second for the psychological boost in a lot of these states. And just look at Texas, which Ted Cruz won. Right now, Marco Rubio is under the 20% threshold. He needs to get any delegates, and that's a big deal. It's a very delegate-rich state, 155 total delegates, don't you think?
As I said, he's not only running against Trump and Cruz, he's running against math. Let's go to Stafford, Texas, to a place called the Redneck Country Club. That's the name of it. Don't get mad at me for saying that. Sunlen Serfati is there with the Cruz campaign. Sunlen, they've got to be feeling pretty good there at the Cruz campaign, projected to win his home state of Texas.
That's right, here at the Redneck Country Club, Jake. It has quickly turned into a party-like atmosphere given that Ted Cruz will win his home state of Texas. Cruz advisors are breathing a huge sigh of relief tonight. Of course, if he lost the state, the threat of losing his state would have been the final nail in his coffin. This will galvanize them going forward. We know that Senator Cruz has worked hard on his speech that he will deliver here shortly tonight. He has arrived, and according to a Cruz campaign advisor, the main theme of the speech that he will deliver tonight will be a call for unity to stop Donald Trump. Expect him to hammer on that issue, not only here tonight with his speech in front of his home state crowd, but also going forward. He will bring that message to Kansas tomorrow out on the campaign trail. Also, that message is also a specific message for Marco Rubio. For so long, the Cruz campaign has been trying to turn this into a two-man race. They largely feel the fact that Marco Rubio has not delivered a state win tonight really can cut into that message, really can galvanize that message going forward. Jake?
All right, Sunlen Serfati in Stafford, Texas at Cruz campaign headquarters. And Dana, Ted Cruz has been saying since New Hampshire that this is a two-man race. I don't know if establishment leaders are going to listen to it any more today than they did a few weeks ago, but that is the argument he's going to make.
It is. And, you know, if you look back to September when Scott Walker dropped out of the race, remember Scott Walker?
Yes, Governor of Wisconsin.
He called for other people to follow suit because I'm told by people close to him that he got the Trump groundswell. He got that the grassroots were looking for somebody like Trump. And unless everybody just cleared out of the way, that he wasn't going to be able to be stopped. So, you know, he did it, and he was calling for other people to do what you're going to hear Ted Cruz do tonight.
Let's talk about two races that we have not called yet this evening, Arkansas and Oklahoma, where the votes are very, very close. There, if you look, Ted Cruz slightly ahead over Donald Trump in Oklahoma, Marco Rubio in third place. And then in Arkansas, one would think that Ted Cruz would do better, but he's in third place there behind Donald Trump and Marco Rubio.
Yep.
Both of them places that any candidate could win at this point.
It is. And Arkansas is fascinating because, as you said, it should be a place where Ted Cruz is doing well because he did spend so much time investing money, energy, grassroots, volunteers in
Southern
the South.
Firewall, yes.
Southern Firewall. But
not so much.
The fact that, again, going back to this New Yorker doing well in Arkansas among Republicans is pretty astonishing. But he also has a new member of his team, the daughter of the former governor. Mike Huckabee's daughter, Sarah Huckabee, who ran Mike Huckabee's campaign, has joined on as a senior advisor. She knows how to run campaigns in Arkansas. She's done it before, and there's no question in my mind she's helping him in Arkansas.
Mike Huckabee has not endorsed anybody, former governor,
No.
former presidential candidate. He has not endorsed anybody in this race, although sometimes you might think that his sentiments are with the frontrunner, Donald Trump, based on things he says and things he does, although he has not endorsed anybody.
That's right. I mean, look, he was a populist before being a populist was cool. You know, following him around in 2008 in Iowa, that was very much his message. So in that way, he's in line with Donald Trump. But historically, not so much on the social issues.
Yeah. Wolf?
We're going to be hearing soon from Donald Trump, and I want to go over to John King over at the Magic Wall. So far, 5 wins tonight for Donald Trump, 6 wins for Hillary Clinton. Ted Cruz picks up his home state of Texas. Bernie Sanders picks up his home state of Vermont. Show us what the map shows right now.
If you just look at the big picture, the Republican establishment may not like Donald Trump, but Republican voters from Northeast down the South and across do like Donald Trump. And he's having an impressive night so far. Let's look at some of the places we're still waiting to see. Oklahoma, Ted Cruz in the lead right now. This would be very important to the Cruz campaign. Rivals will argue it borders Texas, no big deal. But for Cruz to get 2 wins tonight and 1 outside of his home state, even though it's a neighbor, would be a big deal. About half of the vote counted. Cruz that's stretched a little bit, the lead in recent moments. So it's a fight, three-way fight. Rubio's in third place here, but it's mostly Cruz filling in the rural areas, and he's getting the Tulsa suburbs right now. We'll watch how this one plays out. Very important for Cruz. If he could win 2 tonight, it would strengthen his message that the other candidates should get out of the race. You mentioned Arkansas just a few minutes ago. Trump running this one up pretty good at the moment. It's reasonably competitive, but Trump filling in. We're seeing this in just about every state. Marco Rubio wins the suburbs around decent-sized cities. Donald Trump winning out in the rural areas, the exurbs and out in the rural areas as well. As we count the votes in Arkansas, if you move over, again, this is a big Trump win here. In a number of states, we're seeing this. This final number could matter. A number of states have 20% thresholds to get delegates, and Marco Rubio just under it in Tennessee at the moment. He's also just under it up in Vermont. One of the big dynamics, Wolf, as we get later into the night, we can start apportioning the delegates, is we know Trump's going to come out the big winner. It looks like he's going to come out with more delegates than Mitt Romney had at this point in 2012, and closing in on the number John McCain had at this point in 2008. That will help his argument right there. And if we come down to Texas right now, you see what's happening. Cruz ahead by 39.5% there, and Rubio at 19%, again, under the 20% delegate rule. So if part of Cruz's argument will be tonight, I won my home state, maybe he wins Oklahoma, but if Rubio falls below the delegate threshold in a number of these states, Cruz will also be able to make the case mathematically, even though Trump will have a big lead, that he's in a solid second place after this.
Let's take a look at Oklahoma Democrats. Still outstanding. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. There's a close race going on right now. Almost half the vote is in.
It's a close race, and you wouldn't think so if you looked at the map, right? So what is happening here? Hillary Clinton is winning in the Oklahoma City area and the suburbs around it, and she's winning by quite a handy margin there. Not a ton of votes. And we got a lot of votes out there still, so she has the potential, if she keeps that lead, to get some more math here in a very close race. Bernie Sanders is winning just about everywhere else. A couple of small counties over here for Secretary Clinton, 66, 2/3 of the vote in here. Again, very small. There's not a lot of votes to be counted still. Nearly 60% here, a much smaller county, and that one's relatively close. But this is one of these dynamics you see sometimes. She's winning in the major population center and the suburbs around it. Bernie Sanders is running it up in the rest of the state, small rural communities. But we're going to have to count this
Oklahoma City over there, that's a big county. There's a big chunk of the population.
It is a big chunk, nearly 20% of the population, which is why...
Only 21% reporting so far.
Which is why with a gap like that, there's some math for Secretary Clinton to be made up. So she's behind right now. She could make up some ground here if that stands. There's no guarantee as they count more precincts that gap stands as it is, but there is some math for her to be made up here. But if you come back out statewide with nearly 0.5% of the vote, Senator Sanders beginning to pull away a bit. Why? Because he's just running it up. You get out into these smaller communities, they're tiny, but he's just running it up with 56% there, 63% there, 55 here, 55 here. So he's just, you run it up where there's in the smaller towns to offset her advantages in the population centers. And so we go.
Let's take a look at Massachusetts on the Democratic side.
Well, right now it's shaded for Secretary Clinton, but 51% to 47%. You see the decimals, 27% of the vote counted. Let's see what we're missing. Last time we checked, nothing from Worcester out here in the central part of the state. Still nothing. It's a little shy of 3% of the population. It's a gritty blue-collar area. Both candidates fighting for this. Bill Clinton there as recently as yesterday. Let's come into Boston and see what we get in Boston proper. Only 18% of the vote in. It's 9% of the state population. Obviously a large Democratic population in the city. Again, Bill Clinton was at a voting place out in West Roxbury earlier today too. 54%, 40 to 44%. So Hillary Clinton is winning in the largest population center of the city of Boston right now. But we're just shy of 20% of the vote. A lot more to come in. And you look down here, Bernie Sanders winning as you head down toward Cape Cod. New Bedford, a blue-collar area down here. Let's bring that up and see where we are. Hillary Clinton with a healthy lead there. But we still have to wait. We've got a lot of Wolf, especially along the border here in New Hampshire, Vermont. This should be Sanders country, just like we see in Oklahoma. If he can rack up some big numbers in these smaller rural areas, maybe he can catch up to her lead in the urban area, Wolf.
All right, John, thanks very much. We're watching all of these states. We're getting more results, and we're getting ready right now to make another major projection. And look at this, the second state for Bernie Sanders tonight. CNN projects Bernie Sanders will win the Oklahoma Democratic presidential primary. This is a big win for Bernie Sanders. He carried his home state of Vermont, but now he carries Oklahoma as well. Let's take a look at the votes in Oklahoma right now. With half of the vote already in, Bernie Sanders has a significant lead, 51.8% to 40.5% for Hillary Clinton. She's about almost 19,000 votes ahead. Let's take a look at the states that we have projected winners for so far on the Democratic side. 6 states for Hillary Clinton: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. We now project that with Oklahoma, Bernie Sanders has carried Vermont, his home state, as well as Oklahoma. That's an important win for Bernie Sanders, his second win of the night. On the Republican side, CNN has projected that Donald Trump will win Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia, 5 states for Donald Trump. We've also projected that Ted Cruz will win his own state of Texas. You see that right now. We're standing by the way, for Donald Trump. He's in Palm Beach, Florida right now. He's getting ready to speak. We, of course, will want to hear what he has to say about all of these wins for him tonight. Ted Cruz wins his home state of Texas. Several races are still outstanding. Anderson.
Wolf, as we stand by for Donald Trump, we'll obviously break into that. Let's start with Trump supporter Jeffrey Lord. How, for your candidate, things are still looking very good, though Ted Cruz was able to bring his home state.
At least he won his home state, but he should win his home state. But he did, if he's winning Oklahoma, he'll be the only other person to say, I've carried something outside my home state tonight. I think what we're seeing, if Ted Cruz is going to come out and say that people should start to get out or whatever, this is our friend Michael's Smirkanish principle, as I call it, where they're all going to have this egotistical argument about, no, I'm not getting out, you get out. And I mean, I think this is just human nature. I don't think it's going to work. And the other thing is, of course, that Lindsey Graham, I think, famously said that the choice between Trump and Cruz was the choice between being shot or poisoned. I don't think that the establishment is ready to rally around Ted Cruz.
But SC, I mean, the argument that Ted Cruz could make is that he won 2 states, Texas and Iowa, and has probably a better place finishes in some of these other states tonight than Marco Rubio.
He can. This is the existential dilemma for Republicans. Marco Rubio is inarguably the most electable Republican candidate in a general. He cannot prove that to anyone yet because he's won nowhere. Ted Cruz, I would argue, is less electable.
It's a hard argument to make that you're the most electable if you actually
when you
have
look
not
at
won.
favoribles and matchups,
Right.
that argument.
I'm the best athlete I've ever seen, except
never won.
I can't actually
Prove it.
lift anything or run.
Ted Cruz, no, exactly right. Ted Cruz, who has some primary wins, I would argue is less electable than Donald Trump in a general election. So if you've been making the argument for anyone but Trump, the news that Ted Cruz finally might be, honing in on Donald Trump is not great news.
I got to say, you look thrilled tonight.
I'm loving this. I've never been happier.
Say a couple of things. First of all, on the Republican side, we spent the whole week talking about this incredible flurry of insults coming back from Marco Rubio. He won a bunch of news cycles. He apparently is not going to win a state. We also talked about this unfortunate failure on Donald Trump's part to be as passionate denouncing the KKK as a terrorist organization as he usually is denouncing terrorist organizations. We spent a lot of time talking about that. It seems to have had no effect. We talked earlier, what is this magic that he has? Why are all of the Republicans abandoning their post to be with him? There is some concern.
We're not all. We're not all.
So many of them.
Yes.
Abandoning their post. At some point, we should talk about this dark underside that he tends to raise. Maybe we'll do it after the speech. But I want to talk about the other rebel. We've not talked about Sanders. There is another rebel in the race. You could have switched speeches tonight. Hillary Clinton's speech and Bernie Sanders. If you just switched it, you would not have known the difference. That is the impact that Sanders has had on this race and on Hillary Clinton. And in fact, you have people on Twitter now complaining, saying that Hillary Clinton's stealing Bernie's speeches. I think that it's an important thing, I think, to point out that he has had an impact beyond his electoral count.
He has. Bernie, in his speech, said this campaign is not just about electing a president. He wants to send a message. And if Hillary is, in fact, hearing and reflecting that message, it's a sign of leadership and unity. It's a very good thing for Bernie, frankly. I think it's good for Hillary, too.
As we're waiting for Donald Trump, I mean, again, Michael, you wanted to...
Yeah, I want to say this. I think that right now, Ted Cruz should be calling Marco Rubio and thanking him for what he did in the last couple of days, because as Rubio was diving into the gutter with Trump, I was of the mindset that someone who abandons Trump because of the strikes that Rubio was attempting to land isn't going to Rubio. They're going to Ted Cruz. And I can see tonight several areas where Cruz has benefited in the last couple of days. I can't find any where Marco Rubio has.
Don't you think Cruz can make the argument now to the so-called establishment, whatever that is, that he is the alternative?
I think SC laid it out.
Marco
You
Rubio?
travel around Washington and you talk to Republicans, and by and large what they say is, I'm more comfortable with Donald Trump than I am with Ted Cruz.
Well, guess
he spent
what?
the last so many years making himself as obnoxious to everyone in this town as he possibly could to try and signify that he was the outsider who was challenging the establishment. And then a guy came along who took that all away from him. And now he's sort of in no man's land.
But guess what? I mean, after tonight, if he has a couple of big wins, he can say to the establishment, okay, Marco Rubio, where has he won?
He can say that.
And they won't. And by the way, they may still decide, okay, we're going to stick with Rubio or we're going to live with Trump. But I also think that there will be some who'll be taking another look at Ted Cruz.
I think fewer than you think.
And it's also true that Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are both 44. Maybe they're both 45 by now. They have 10, 15 years ahead of them. Maybe Marco Rubio, if he doesn't pull off a miracle and come through, he can run for governor of Florida. There is a second place that's a real thing to have if you're running in a GOP presidential primary.
And can we just acknowledge for a moment, yes, I may be weeping for the future of the conservative movement. That's true. But can we just acknowledge that this is democracy at work, right? I mean, unless Trump has rigged this somehow, this is an amazing,
indictment of democracy.
Believe me, I'm not thrilled with a Trump nominee. However, have you ever seen a clearer example of how unexpected democracy can deliver results?
Yeah,
I mean, this has been an amazing election.
And acknowledge Donald Trump's skill as a politician,
Yes.
as a marketer.
I acknowledge, again, Jeffrey, Ambassador, a big night for Donald Trump. But I think the point needs to get made that he's doing so with a very small percentage of the voting age population of the areas that he's winning. In other words, passion is ruling the roost. I mean, he's driving a very small but loyal constituency that doesn't represent mainstream America.
But he's winning. He's still winning.
Michael, but it is growing. You know, we've had this nomenclature. Last week, Van talked about how dumb it was for us, people like me, to characterize it by lanes, this lane, that lane. That's true. We also had this ceiling metaphor. Well, his ceiling is 25 in the Republic. Well, it's 35. Well, now it's 45. Now it's 50 in our latest poll. Winning raises your ceiling, and you know that's what's happening. There's a confirming effect that people around the country look and they go, well, you know what could go wrong? He carried the state next door to me. He carried.
Are you talking to Chris Christie? Because it sounds like you might be talking to Chris Christie.
That's just how I do.
I can't explain it otherwise.
You still have a full 30. Look at that CNN poll from earlier this week, which had Trump at 49%. Really stunning growth for Donald Trump. A full 35% of Republicans said never him. And by the way, within the
Democratic... but that's what they're saying now. If it's a race between him and Hillary Clinton, or that 35% of Republicans
within
going to
the
vote for Hillary
Democratic
Clinton?
internals, this is the oddity of this race, one among many. A full 20% of Ds said never her. The prospect for crossover voting in a general between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is really staggering.
Totally.
Yeah, but I think Paul's point before is the right one, which is I think the Democrat and the fact that Hillary's speech so reflected some of the themes that Bernie's been working really speaks to it. There's much more unity on the Democratic side. I mean, I said earlier, I think she's going to have challenges because she comes in with high negatives. Trump comes in with astronomical negatives. It portends a very tough race, but I think the Democratic Party right now is more coherent than the Republican Party.
Her capacity to rally around.
There's one thing that...
sorry, I got to go to Wolf. Wolf?
All right, Anderson, we've got a major projection, a big one right now. Take a look at this. We'll watch together with all of our viewers. CNN projects Ted Cruz, the Texas senator, will win the Oklahoma Republican presidential primary. It's a second win after Texas. That is an important win for Ted Cruz tonight, not just one state, Texas, but also neighboring Oklahoma as well. Ted Cruz wins. Take a look at the actual vote that has come in so far. 65% of the vote is in, relatively close, but Cruz is the winner, 34.7%, 29.5% for Trump, 24% for Marco Rubio. A very big win for Ted Cruz in Oklahoma so far. Let's take a look at the states that have already been projected by CNN so far on the Republican side. Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, 5 states we've projected will go to Donald Trump. On the Republican side, Texas and Oklahoma, we have projected will go for Ted Cruz. 2 states for Ted Cruz so far. 5 states for Donald Trump. Remember, Ted Cruz also won Iowa, so that's 3 states that he has won so far. He was hoping to win Texas and Oklahoma. Jake and Dana, he did win Texas and Oklahoma. Impressive wins for him.
This is huge. This is huge. This Oklahoma win is Ted Cruz's 3rd win in this contest. Donald Trump has 8. Ted Cruz has 3. Everyone else combined has 0. Right. And this is going to buttress his argument that it's time for everyone to consolidate around him, around Ted Cruz, so as to defeat Donald Trump. This is going to be a very forceful argument. And look, Jeffrey Lord quoted Lindsey Graham speaking on behalf of the Republican establishment, saying a choice between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz was a choice between something like shooting yourself and poisoning yourself.
Right.
Well, guess what? That's the choice that the Republican establishment has. They're going to have to either shoot themselves or poison themselves. They have to get behind one of these guys. That's the argument, because the math is just becoming impossible for any other candidate, Dana.
That's right. And you hit the nail on the head. It is about math. And, well, it's 2 things. It is about sort of the psychological impact of having 2 wins on a night where people were looking at Donald Trump to run the board. Texas is one thing. Oklahoma is another, because it's not his home state. It's neighboring, but it's still a big deal. But the Rubio campaign is going to argue, and I'm waiting for text to come on my phone, is that it's about the long game, and that this is the end of the road for the Cruz campaign, that if you look forward in the calendar, that he doesn't have that many states in the next couple of weeks that he can do well in. But here's the big but. Right now, it is about momentum as much as math still. And Ted Cruz has had, all things considered, a pretty good night.
Right. Well, just to be clear, I was expressing what the Cruz argument will be, and that's not my argument. And obviously, people who support Marco Rubio are going to say, well, wait a second, we still don't know what's going to happen tonight in Minnesota.
Right.
There are still these other races in Arkansas and Oklahoma. There's still a lot that might come in, and there's still perhaps an argument to make.
That's right. And actually, as we were talking, I just got a text from a senior Cruz source who noted that this is the first state that was Republican only, because a lot of the contests are open and other people, independents and so forth, can vote. That is the kind of electorate that tends to do better for Donald Trump. This is Republican only, and for Republicans in Oklahoma, they went for Ted Cruz.
It's a big victory, Anderson, for Ted Cruz. Oklahoma, the 3rd contest that he's won.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Gloria David, I mean, he can now argue, look, I've won not just 2 states tonight, I also won earlier in Iowa.
That's right. And I just want to say that as Jay keeps saying, this is all about the math in the end, that as of right now, Marco Rubio does not meet the 20% statewide threshold in Vermont, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas. That doesn't mean he can't get any delegates there, but it limits them incredibly, and that really does impact the math of this race.
Listen, the Rubio project is in disarray. Let's be frank about it. He had to show something somewhere tonight. He's struggling even to get to 2nd in Massachusetts and Vermont.
Right.
Moderate states. It's hard to be the establishment candidate when nobody's, when people are unwilling to support you.
Is there any, I mean, this is probably the most ridiculous idea, but, I mean, Cruz is not going to drop out. Rubio seems unlikely to drop out. Is there any chance of them teaming up at this early stage? I mean, I know it would be unheard of. And
Rubio?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I guess I mean, what does that look like? I mean, do they pretend they're going to...
One takes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Well, I don't know. I mean, one of them has to clearly, be president and vice president.
Listen, I have great deal of respect for Marco Rubio, and I think you guys know that I've been probably the most impressed by him of all of them. I think that if he loves the country the way that he says, and he believes what he says about Donald Trump, I think he should get out. I think he should get out. I mean, at this point, there is literally no way for him to win. He won every news cycle. He did everything you could humanly do, and he may not even get the silver in major places where he should be getting the gold.
What if his let's hear the Republicans, SE. I mean, literally, you seem to have got. SE, you just seem to went to your special place in your head. The thought of that. What's going through your mind?
Look, Marco Rubio has been the future of the party for many of us
for decades,
for some time,
Right.
And I have watched him over the years get better and better and better at delivering a message, at coalescing, at mechanical politics. And it just felt like, well, this is the time. We've got the right candidate, Hillary Clinton, to go after the right opponent, Marco Rubio. There's that great generational contrast. He's a new demographic for Republicans. And after 2012, it seemed like we had really rejiggered and figured out how to bring in more voters. And that's what he was out there talking about. So as disappointed as I am that Rubio's message has failed to cut through, Marco Rubio is, I know, deeply disappointed that he wasn't able to do what everyone thought he could do this year. It's really remarkable. But the good news is he's young.
Isn't one of the problems, I've said this before here, isn't one of the problems is that he played it too cute. He tried to be everyone's second choice.
Right.
And, he tried to be the evangelical candidate. He tried to be the Tea Party candidate. He tried to be the establishment candidate. And they each chose someone who they thought was more authentically in their camp.
I think Marco Rubio was, like everyone else, completely confused by Donald Trump. And look, give Marco Rubio credit. He's one of 5 guys still standing after a very long and trying contest that has felled some pretty impressive, powerful people. So he I think, navigated case-by-case situation, how to figure Trump and Cruz and Jeb out and survive. And I think he did a pretty good job. I can't imagine you would say that Chris Christie came out of this unscathed, or Jeb Bush came out of this unscathed.
I'm listening to SC, and I'm reminded years ago of a Johnny Carson show where they cut to Ed McMahon, who was doing a live dog food commercial. And they put the dog food down there, and the dog would not eat the dog food. And he keeps encouraging him. Finally, Johnny, to save the whole thing, goes in on his hands and knees and starts eating the dog food.
Am I the dog in this scenario?
No, Marco Rubio is the dog here. I mean, it's the dog food. The voters are not buying it. They are not buying it. And so, therefore, I mean, we talked in the beginning of this year.
And yet there is a candidate on the Republican side who voters are buying, and they're buying in droves.
Oh, it's amazing. This has been our problem. We have been waiting for the candidate to come around who would harness the enthusiasm of the Republican electorate since Reagan. We got him. He's just going to destroy the party in the process.
Let's go to Chris Christie.
Tonight, Donald Trump is the clear winner on Super Tuesday. But the win is important for our country. Tonight, Donald Trump has won Georgia and Massachusetts, Alabama and Virginia. And he's also won the great state of Tennessee. Tonight is the beginning of Donald Trump bringing the Republican Party together for a big victory this November. Tonight is the beginning of Donald Trump bringing the people of our nation together to help America win again. And tonight, in all those states who supported Mr. Trump today, all the ones who voted across this country, our message is to begin to get ready for the fight that is coming this fall. The fight this fall is to make sure that a united Republican Party and a united American people make sure that Hillary Rodham Clinton never gets back in the White House. Since June 16th, when Mr. Trump declared his candidacy, he has shown himself to be tough and strong and bold. He's shown himself to be a fighter, a leader who speaks plainly to the American people. He has listened to the American people. The American people are listening to him, and he is bringing the country together. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a campaign, it's a movement. America wants to come together. America wants to be strong and successful again, but they know that to do that, they need to have a strong, bold, tough, decisive leader back in the Oval Office. And they have that man after tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate it. This has been an amazing evening. Already we've won 5 major states, and it looks like we could win 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. It's really been great. I want to congratulate Ted on the winning of Texas. He worked hard on it, and I know how hard he worked, actually. And so I congratulate Ted Cruz on that win. That was an excellent win. We're going to make America great again, folks. We're going to make it great again. And, you know, I watched Hillary's speech, and she's talking about wages have been poor, and everything's doing badly, but we're going to make it. She's been there for so long. I mean, if she hasn't straightened it out by now, she's not going to straighten it out in the next 4 years. It's just going to become worse and worse. She wants to make America whole again, and I'm trying to figure out what is that all about. Make America great again is going to be much better than making America whole again. So I just want to say that this was an exciting evening. It's so great to be in Florida. It's so great to be at Mar-a-Lago with friends and the press and the media and everybody. I know it was a very tough night for Marco Rubio. He had a tough night, but he worked hard. He spent a lot of money. He is a lightweight, as I've said many times before. But you know what? We're going to go to Florida. We're going to spend so much time in Florida. We've got about a 20-point lead. I know that a lot of groups, a lot of the special interests, and a lot of the lobbyists and the people that want to have their little senator do exactly as they want, they're going to put $20 or $25 million into it over the next 2 weeks from what just came over the wires. And frankly, I think that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, it's fine. And if he wins, they'll have total control. But he's not going anywhere anyway. But we'll see what happens. But we're going to spend a lot of time in Florida. The Virginia win was just a great win because it's a place that is just spectacular and a place that we have big investments in, as we have in Florida. Remember, we have thousands of employees in Florida, all along Miami, Doral and Mar-a-Lago and so many other places. And it's been an amazing place to invest. It's been amazing to have so many wonderful employees, some of whom are here tonight, really urging us on. And, you know, I have thousands of employees all over the country, actually all over the world. But for purposes of tonight, we'll just say all over the country. And it's been just so beautiful to watch this company grow and to watch it grow so strongly. Recent articles came out talking about how great a company we built. And now we want to put that same ability into doing something for our nation. I mean, our nation is in serious trouble. We're being killed on trade, absolutely destroyed. China is just taking advantage of us. I have nothing against China. I have great respect for China. But their leaders are too smart for our leaders. Our leaders don't have a clue. And the trade deficits at $400 billion and $500 billion are too much. No country can sustain that kind of trade deficit. It won't be that way for long. We have the greatest business leaders in the world on my team already. And believe me, we're going to redo those trade deals, and it's going to be a thing of beauty. You look at countries like Mexico, where they're killing us on the border, absolutely destroying us on the border. They're destroying us in terms of economic development. Companies like Carrier Air Conditioner just moving into Mexico, Ford moving into Mexico, Nabisco closing up shop in Chicago and moving into Mexico. We have to stop it, folks. I know how to stop it. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create jobs like you've never seen. We're going to lower taxes. I have a plan that Larry Kudlow and so many others think is the best plan they've seen. We're going to lower taxes substantially for the middle class. The middle class has been forgotten in our country. It really helped and really probably was the predominant factor in making our country into a country that we all love so much and we're all so proud of. But we've forgotten the middle class, and we're going to lower taxes. We're lowering taxes on business. You look at all the companies that are moving out. When you see Pfizer moving to Ireland, and you see so many other companies constantly, now they're leaving. They used to move from New York to Florida, or they'd move from New Jersey to someplace else, Chris. But now they're moving from here, but not that many people are leaving New Jersey. But Chris understands the problem, fully understands. Now they're leaving from places that they used to move to into other parts of the world. We can't let that happen. Well, we've lost our manufacturing jobs. We've lost our manufacturing. Millions and millions of jobs. Thousands and thousands and thousands of plants, manufacturing plants, warehouses. I mean, we are losing so much. We can't let it happen. I tell the story often about a friend of mine who is in the excavation business, and he always orders Caterpillar. And recently he ordered Komatsu tractors from Japan because they've cut the yen, they've devalued the yen to such an extent that it was virtually impossible for Caterpillar to compete. And I don't want that to happen. That's not going to happen. They shouldn't be allowed to do it. We have tremendous power over everybody because we are really the source. We have great, great power. The problem is we have politicians that truly, truly, truly don't know what they're doing. So we're going to work very, very hard. I'm so honored by this evening. If you would have told me on June 16th, when I was with my wife, Melania, and we came down the escalator in Trump Tower, and it looked literally, well, a little bit like this. You have a lot of cameras here tonight. It looked literally like the Academy Awards. I'd never saw so many cameras in my life. And it takes courage to run. I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of courage to run for president. I've never done this before. I've been a job producer. I've done a lot of things, but this is something I've never done. But I felt we had to do it. When you look at the incompetence of the Iran deal, where we give $150 billion, we get absolutely nothing. When you look at all of the problems our country has, and you look at our military, which is really being depleted, rapidly depleted, we're going to make our military bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and nobody's going to mess with us, folks. Nobody. So it's just an amazing honor to have you with me tonight. And if you want press, I think we told you before it would be okay if you want to ask a few questions. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Trump, you said that your campaign is focused on uniting, not dividing. Your critics would suggest that you're dividing not just the country, but your party. There's been a lot of pressure recently to either support or reject you within the Republican Party specifically. Some strongly worded statements coming out in recent days, including one from a senator from Nebraska, Ben Sass, who said, if Donald Trump ends up as the Republican nominee, conservatives will need to find a third party option. What do you say about the divisions within the party right now?
They'll just lose everything, and that would be the work of a loser. But let me just explain something. If you've seen what's happened, whether you go to South Carolina, where I had a huge victory, where we had a tremendous victory in New Hampshire, tremendous in Nevada, you look at what's happened, and tonight, of course, is the best of all. I mean, right now they're projected, I guess, 6, but it could be 7, 8, 9, and major states. It's Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia. And, you know, these are amazing states, so we're going to probably get a lot more. In fact, we're projected to have some pretty good additional numbers. But I will say this, look, we have expanded the Republican Party. When you look at what's happened in South Carolina and you see the kind of numbers that we got in terms of extra people coming in, they came from the Democratic Party or the Democrat Party, and they're Democrats and they're longtime Democrats, and they were never going to switch, and they all switched. And they were independents. And we've actually expanded the party. Look at the number of votes we had in that area, as an example. 4 years ago, they had 390,000 or so votes. We doubled it. We were almost 800,000. Whereas the Democrats went down. There's much less enthusiasm for the Democrats. So, look, I'm a unifier. I know people are going to find that a little bit hard to believe, but believe me, I am a unifier. Once we get all of this finished, I'm going to go after one person. That's Hillary Clinton, on the assumption she's allowed to run, which is a big assumption. I don't know that she's going to be allowed to run. And I think that's frankly going to be an easy race. You see the polls. I beat Hillary in many polls. I know one thing. I don't think Marco's going to be able to beat her. I don't think, in all fairness, I think Ted's going to have a very hard time. But Ted at least has a shot because at least he's won a little bit. So I just tell you this. We are going to be a much finer party, we're going to be a unified party. I mean, to be honest with you, and we are going to be a much bigger party, and you can see that happening. We're going to be a much bigger party. Our party is expanding, and all you have to do is take a look at the primary states where I've won, and just look where we've gone from X number to a much larger number. That hasn't happened to the Republican Party in many, many decades. So I think we're going to be more inclusive, I think we're going to be more unified, and I think we're going to be a much bigger party, and I think we're going to win in November. Okay, yeah.
Does it feel to you yet like you are the presumptive Republican nominee? And along those lines, you had some complimentary things to say about Planned Parenthood. You said you could be flexible on immigration. Are you trying to adjust your tone to a more general election message?
I'm just doing what's right. Look, Planned Parenthood has done very good work for millions of women. And I'll say it, and I know a lot of the so-called conservatives, they say that's really, because I'm a conservative, but I'm a common sense conservative. But millions of women have been helped by Planned Parenthood. But we're not going to allow and we're not going to fund as long as you have the abortion going on at Planned Parenthood. And we understand that. And I've said it loud and clear. And we'll see what happens. But Planned Parenthood, millions of people, and I've had thousands of letters from women that have been helped. And this wasn't a setup. This was people writing letters. I'm going to be really good for women. I'm going to be good for women's health issues. It's very important to me. Very important to me. And maybe that's not a perfect conservative view, but I can tell you one thing. I'm more conservative than anybody on the military, on taking care of our vets, on the border, on the wall, on getting rid of Obamacare and coming up with something much, much better, and certainly getting rid of Common Core and bringing education to a local level so that you're going to have good education for our children who are being absolutely starved for proper education. So, Sarah, I mean, you know, you can call it what you want, but I am a truth teller, and I will tell the truth, okay? Yeah, go ahead, finish it.
Do you feel like the presumptive nominee at this point?
I feel awfully good. I mean, I'm watching your people. I'm watching your people on, and I'm going to be very nice. I'm going to be very nice. I'm watching your people on CNN, and I'm watching the Fox people, and I'm watching the MSNBC people, too. Okay? See? I'm becoming diplomatic. And they are certainly being very nice to me tonight. I mean, you know, they're being very strong. And they are. They're declaring Marco Rubio the big loser of the night, which is true. He didn't win anything. He hasn't won anything, period. And by the way, and I have to tell you, and he was very, very nasty. I've never heard a person get up and speak on an evening like this and be so nasty, but he's got a right to be nasty. He hasn't won anything, and he's not going to win very much. But I do congratulate Ted because I know how hard Ted worked on Texas, and that's a big get. Now, I also did very well in Texas. I came in second. And one of the things my son Eric told me, which I didn't even realize, is that not only did I win most of the states, and some are coming in, and I'm expected to win them, but I came in second. I came in no worse than second. So it wasn't like I won and then I disappeared. The worst I had was a second. So I'm very, very honored by the turnout. Okay? Yes, go ahead.
Trump, in Washington today, Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, and the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell felt it necessary to suggest that you had not been clear enough. You'd been equivocal about the role of hate groups or the KKK might play in relationship either to your movement or your overall orientation to politics. Are they wrong? And will you say tonight?
I disavowed. I disavowed when in fact, Chris is my number one. When Chris gave me the honor of joining the campaign, he called me, said, Donald, what you've got is a movement. We spoke today in Kentucky. You've never seen a crowd like that. That had to be 20,000 people inside this massive convention center, and it was incredible. And every place we're speaking, if we have 10,000 people, it's like a small group. We had 35,000 people the other day in Alabama. And when Chris called, he said, this is a movement. This is something like I've never seen. And in all fairness to the press, a lot of the press have said the same thing. They've never seen what's happening right now. They've never seen anything like it. And I'm just honored by it. Now, when Chris joined, we had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. Now, right after the program that we're talking about, and I thought it was clear, but, you know, we're talking about groups. I do have to know the name of the group because who knows? I mean, they have to give me the name of the group. But right after, when I reviewed it, I put out a tweet and I put out on Facebook that I totally disavow. Now, everybody knew I did that, but the press refused to look at that. It was right after. And I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again. I mean, how many times are you supposed to disavow? But I disavow. And hopefully it's the final time I have to do it. But if you look at Facebook and if you look at Twitter, right after the show, I put out a statement because I want everybody to be sure. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Trump, you call yourself an negotiator, a deal maker. Is this campaign just the start of a negotiation for you, taking extreme positions in order to move towards the middle?
No, it's not. But there is going to always be some negotiation. And it's going to be a good negotiation, not a bad negotiation. It's going to be a negotiation where we'll start at certain levels, and hopefully I will make a great deal and lots of great deals for the American people. So, look, you can't go around just signing our little notices that the president signs all the time, executive orders. He signed executive order, executive order. It's almost like, I don't even know, does he ever go and deal with Congress anymore? Does he ever speak to the Senate? Does he ever speak with congressmen and get them into a room and get things done? A good example of this, in all fairness, is something that is very, very important to me. Corporate inversion. Carl Icahn, who's a friend of mine who endorsed me, great businessman. It bothers him so much. He calls me about it all the time, where we're losing companies. And we're losing for two reasons. We're losing for a lot of reasons, but the taxes are too high. We're the highest tax nation in the world. And very importantly, they have trillions, for companies, trillions of dollars outside of this country. The Democrats agree it should be brought back in. The Republicans agree it should be brought back in. Everybody agrees it should be brought back in. I could sit in a room, or the Oval Office, for a period of literally a half hour, and I really believe I could get everybody, every single person. It's one thing, they don't agree on health care, or they don't agree on Common Core, or they don't agree on other things, and they'll fight. Here's something, almost everybody agrees. These trillions and trillions of dollars should be brought into the country. The president can't make a deal. The reason is he doesn't know how to make a deal, probably doesn't work at it, probably doesn't care, but you're talking about tremendous amounts of money. So when you have something that everybody wants and you can't make a deal, there's something going on that's really wrong. And what it means is you have the wrong leader. Yes?
If the Democrats stonewall you on immigration, is immigration negotiable?
Look, we are going to have a wall, I can tell you. We are going to have a wall. I watched the ex-president of Mexico, the arrogance of this man. And I get along great with the Hispanics. You saw in Nevada, I won in the poll, the Hispanic vote. I have thousands of people that work for me right now that are Hispanic. I've had thousands and thousands over my lifetime. These are great people. The Mexican leaders are too smart for our leaders. And you saw it. Vicente Fox, first of all, he used a word that you should never have. If I ever used that word, you folks would have never, ever, ever let me get away with it. Nobody even talked about the word he used, and this is the ultimate word. But he was angry at the concept of somebody saying that they were going to pay for the wall. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. We have a trade deficit with Mexico of $58 billion a year. $58 billion. The wall is going to cost $10 billion. It's so easy. I've had these guys that I'm on the stage with come, you don't really mean Mexico's going to pay for the wall. As sure as you're standing there, 100% Mexico's going to pay. 100%. And the reason is I'm a businessman. I know how to do this. Politicians are all talk, no action. It's not going to, except for Christie, of course. It's not, look, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen with these people. So when you think of it, and then they say, you'll never be able to build a wall. Well, it's 2,000 miles, but we really need 1,000 miles. The Great Wall of China, built 2,000 years ago, is 13,000 miles, folks. And they didn't have Caterpillar tractors, because I only want to use Caterpillar if you want to know the truth. Or John Deere. I buy a lot of equipment from John Deere. I love John Deere, too. But they didn't have tractors. They didn't have cranes. They didn't have excavation equipment. The wall is 13,000 miles long. We need 1,000 miles. And we have all of the materials. We can do that so beautifully. And this is going to be a serious wall. This is going to be a high wall. This is going to be a very serious wall. We're going to stop drugs from coming into New Hampshire. You know, when I won New Hampshire, those people were so incredible to me. And when you go, you wouldn't believe it because it's so bucolic, so beautiful. You look at the fields and you look at everything. It's so beautiful. And yet you go to a meeting in New Hampshire, their number one problem is heroin. The heroin is pouring in, and they have so many of their young people and other people addicted. And I told them, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it. We're going to have a strong border, and I mean strong. And by the way, speaking of people are going to come in, and they're going to come into this country, but they're going to come in legally, okay? I have a lot of respect for Rick Scott. I don't know about his endorsement, but he's a friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for Rick Scott.
I want to ask you about your plan. You're on your plan to bar Muslims.
What?
On your plan to temporarily
Got to
bar
find out what's going on. We've got a big problem.
But this weekend, Governor Christie said that, in fact, you'd backed away from that position and
We
no
have
longer...
a big problem. I'll tell it like it is. We have a big problem. We got to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Radical Islamic terrorism, big problem. Not only for us. You take a look at Germany. You take a look at Sweden. You take a look at Brussels. You look at some of these places, it's like a disaster. And we're not going to allow people to come into our country who we have no idea who they are. We have no idea where they come from. They have no paperwork. They're young and they're strong. You look at that migration line. They're young, they're strong, they're powerful. And you say, why aren't they back fighting for their country? Now, with all of that being said, I feel strongly, I have a bigger heart than anybody. We're going to build a safe zone. It's going to be in Syria. And I'm going to get the Gulf states, who have more money than anybody. We got to loosen up their wallets a little bit. We're going to get, but they're not accepting people. We're going to get, wait. We're going to get the Gulf states to pay for it, because they should.
Not specifically on the refugees. I'm talking about your plan to ban all
Muslims. I
Muslims.
said I gave you a good answer. You heard what I said. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Trump, if you are indeed the nominee versus Hillary Clinton in the fall, what are you going to do to bring back some of these groups, though, that have been offended by your campaign so far, such as women, Muslims, Mexican Americans?
We're going to bring them back. We're going to bring them back. Look, I'm telling you, you know how I'm going to bring them back? First of all, we're going to do great with the African Americans. And you see that in the polls, where I had one poll where I'm 25%. And one of the commentators, who I think is standing right in the back of the room in the corner, said, you know, if Donald Trump gets 25% of the African American vote, this election is over. You watch. And the reason I'm getting that, and I'm going to do great with the Hispanics, I'm going to do great with virtually every group. The reason is I'm going to bring jobs back. I'm going to get Apple to start making their computers and their iPhones on our land, not in China. How does it help us when they make it in China? So I'm going to create jobs. Okay?
If Marco Rubio cannot win Florida, is it time for him to get out? And do you plan to spend the $25 million that you say he plans to spend?
Well, look, I always liked Marco until about a week ago, when he decided to go hostile. He decided to become Don Rickles, okay? But Don Rickles has a lot more talent. And honestly, I did. I always liked him, but he became, you know, somebody told him, you're losing very badly. The only way you can possibly win, take the Hail Mary, they called it a Hail Mary, the folks in the back, and go hostile. It's hurt him. In fact, one of the newscasts tonight said he went down 15 or 20%. It's really hurt him. But look, I'm not going to tell him what to do. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. You have to run. He had a bad night. According to CNN, Fox, I watched their broadcast. They say the loser of the night was Marco Rubio. And it's true. He didn't win anything. He hasn't won. I mean, at least you can say that Ted has won something. And, you know, Marco has not won. You got to be able to win. You can't talk. You know, these politicians, all talk, no action. You got to be able to win something. He hasn't won anything. And he actually hasn't come very close. So we'll see what happens. Yes, go ahead.
You said that Major's question earlier was about working with Congress. You criticized President Obama for not working with Congress, but you dismissed the criticism from Speaker Ryan and from Senate Majority Leader McConnell, who say that you were equivocating about this issue with these hate groups.
I wasn't equivocating. Let's not ask it again. How many times do I say, listen, who are you, by the way? Who are you with?
I'm Jared Rizzi. I'm with Sirius XM Radio.
Okay, very good. Good job. Look, I don't want to waste a lot of time. I've disavowed. Okay, I'm going to get along great with Congress, okay? Paul Ryan, I don't know him well, but I'm sure I'm going to get along great with him. And if I don't, he's going to have to pay a big price, okay? Okay.
Mr. Trump, why do you think
Yeah, go ahead, on the right, go ahead.
Mr. Trump,
Yes.
a question. You say a lot about what you're going to do for the United States, but what kind of president will you be for the world?
I'm going to be a good president for the world, but we have a country that's in big trouble. Our infrastructure is going to hell. Our roads, our highways, our schools, our hospitals, our airports. I go throughout the world. I mean, you go to Qatar, you go to, who some people say Qatar, but you go to Qatar, you go to so many places. You go to different places in China, different places in Asia, different places in the Middle East. You look at some of the airports they have. You look at the roadways they have. You look at the transportation systems they have and the trains they have. We're like a third world country. So I'm going to be very good for the world. I'm going to get along with the world. You're going to be very proud of me. Even you will be very proud of me as a president. But we have to rebuild our country. Our country is going to hell, and people don't understand that. And Hillary Clinton doesn't have a clue. She can't do that. She's talking about, I mean, one of the things that has really bothered me, I think one of the reasons I have such great support, is that people, you take a look, people in the middle-income groups are making less money today, less money than they made 12 years ago. And in her speech, she just said, they're making less money. Well, she's been there with Obama for a long period of time. Why hasn't she done anything about it? Practically everything that she was complaining about, she's picked up what I say. The difference is she's been there for a long period of time. Why haven't they done anything about it? Then you look at her record as Secretary of State. It's abysmal. You look at what's going on with Syria. You look at what's going on with everything. It's a disaster. So we're going to have an interesting period of time. I don't know that she's going to be allowed to run. What she did is a criminal act. If she's allowed to run, I would be very, very surprised. But if she's allowed to run, honestly, it'll be a sad day for this country. Because what she did was wrong. And what she did, let me just tell you, what she did was wrong. And other people have done far less than her, and they paid a very, very big price. Okay, one or two more questions. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Trump, you've talked about how you plan to deport all of the undocumented immigrants living in this country. And yesterday you said that everything is negotiable, that your immigration plan is potentially negotiable.
Where did I say that? Where did I say that?
Yesterday, on Fox News yesterday, you talked about how...
Yeah, I'll negotiate. If the wall's going to be 50 feet, I'll take 2 feet off the wall.
Are those parts about deporting undocumented immigrants, are those parts of your plan negotiable? And would you consider allowing the people who you've said you would bring back into the country, would you allow them to stay in the country without having to leave the country?
At this moment, absolutely not. No. We either have a country or we don't. We have a country or we don't. We have borders or we don't have borders. And at this moment, the answer is absolutely not. Okay, how about one or two more questions, David? Go ahead.
Trump, we're hearing
Make it a nice question, David, please.
We're hearing some suggestions, including some from a few of your former aides, that some people inside the Republican National Committee are considering monkey wrenching with your delegates at the state level, trying to clear you away and maybe even put Mitt Romney in.
David.
Well, here's the question. Here's the question, Mr. Trump. At the end of the night, you may very well have maybe sewed up 10 of the 15 states at this point. Is that enough of a brushback pitch that the RNC should just commit to honoring their agreement with you, or do you expect them to welch on the bet?
Well, look, I don't expect. I have a lot of respect for Reince and for the group, and I like the RNC, and I don't know that I've been treated fairly or not. I really don't know. I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that I do respect them. What I really have is a great number of people. I have millions and millions of people. And when I was watching those broadcasts just a little while ago before I came in here, because I wanted to see exactly where we were before I started speaking, I was amazed at the kind of numbers. The Republicans have tremendous energy. The Democrats don't. They don't have any energy. Their numbers are down. Our numbers are through the roof. And people are making the statements they've never seen in modern times, a party that was so energized. I think if somebody is doing as well as I'm doing, and I'm not just speaking for myself, whether it's me or anybody else, but if I'm going to win 5, I've already won 5, but maybe it could be 6, 7, 8, 9, could be 9. Could win 9 states tonight. If I'm going to win all of these states with tremendous numbers, and if I'm going to come in, the worst is second in the 2 or 3 that I might not win, I think, we're a democracy. I think it's awfully hard to say that's not the person we want to lead the party, right? It's very hard. But I really think I think it's a great question, David, because I really think that one of the biggest things that everybody is seeing happening, and everybody, is the Republican Party has become more dynamic. It's become more diverse. We're taking from the Democrats. We're taking from the independents. We have a lot more people. We have a lot more people. I mean, take a look at South Carolina. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers from 4 years ago when nobody even wanted to waste their time and vote. And then you look at I was there, and you had lines that went a mile long, and it was virtually more than doubled. So we have a very, very dynamic party, and I think we're going to be able to unify the party. I hope to be able to get along with everybody. I don't know Paul Ryan well, but I hope to be able to get along with him. I do know Mitch McConnell a little bit, but I hope to be able to get along with him. But remember this, I have millions and millions and millions of people. This isn't like it's a close match. I mean, it's only too bad that winner didn't take all. Because if winner took all, this thing is over. We're just having a celebration. You know, we're having a celebration. So anyway, I would like to, look, I just want to end by thanking everybody. This has been an amazing period in my life. My wife just called, and Ivanka, as you know, is going to be having a baby very soon, and she's a special person, and it's going to be great, and we look forward to that. She's back in New York. She wanted to be here. They all wanted to be here, but they're with Ivanka now, and that could be certainly within the next week. But this has been an amazing period of time. It's been amazing for me, even from an educational standpoint, and I think, honestly, we've done something that almost nobody thought could be done. And I'm very proud of it. And I just want to leave you with this. I am a unifier. I would love to see the Republican Party and everybody get together and unify. And when we unify, there's nobody that's going to beat us. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
What about Cruz?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Donald Trump speaking down in Palm Beach at Mar-a-Lago. We also heard earlier Governor Christie introducing Donald Trump. Twitter has a lot to say about Governor Christie tonight, but let's talk to our panel here. Amanda Carpenter, you're just joining us. The man you work for, obviously, Ted Cruz, winning in Texas, Oklahoma. He's previously won in Iowa. What do you make of I mean, is Donald Trump the presumptive nominee at this point?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the good news for Ted Cruz winning those states shows that conservatives who are uniting against Donald Trump live to fight another day. I think at this point in the race, if it is a Cruz-Trump race, we have to kind of throw out the dynamic that we've been thinking of, that it's conservative versus establishment. Essentially, you have two outsiders in Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. The way I think that we should be framing this is that there's two reactions to the anger that the electorate has towards the Obama administration. On one hand, you can double down with Trump, with a guy who's going to probably have an even bigger, more out-of-control government just because you like brute power and you want to stick it to the liberals. Or you can have a more appropriate, I think, reaction with Ted Cruz, a guy who's made his whole career abiding by the constitutional limits of government, trying to restore things to a proper order. Both things are a reaction that we're living into the Obama administration. I don't know what direction we go, but at this point, I think the establishment lane is collapsed. It's over. It's where we go next.
Well, it's restoring things to a proper order is a very tough sell in this election. That's not animating. Order? That's not animating the electorate. I agree with you.
Well,
Ted Cruz is the constitutional conservative. He's been consistently conservative. That just isn't something that this electorate seems to care about. I mean, they're caring about it in these pockets that are voting for Ted Cruz, but in the main, I just don't see that competing with Donald Trump's larger-than-life persona.
Look, Ted Cruz won something tonight outside of Texas. Good for him.
Yeah.
But the essence of the problem here is you have these two outsiders. We haven't talked about Governor Kasich here tonight. I mean, he's just totally vanished.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, and Ben Carson, these guys are bit by bit going to vanish. And I hate to say this to my friend Amanda, but I think in spite of his one win tonight, I mean, you have to be winning more than Oklahoma and Iowa. You've got to win. And this is not happening here. This is not happening for them. There is a passion here for these folks out there who are for Donald Trump, and they are bound and possessed to make this happen, and they are making it happen.
As a Democrat, there are a lot of Democrats at home. They're saying, hey, this is great. The Republicans are falling apart. I think this is a very big development. You had everybody going against Trump, and nobody has been able to do anything to him. And if you think it's going to stop with the Republicans, I think you're very wrong. I think Democrats should be very worried tonight.
One other thing.
You think Democrats should be very worried?
This is a phenomenon.
Yes.
This is a phenomenon.
When Donald Trump came out tonight, he looked, I noticed my friend David chuckling over there when I said it, presidential. I mean, this is what people expect a president to look like and act, very calm and measured, and he was that tonight. I mean,
David, did he seem presidential to you?
Well, I don't know. When he said, I think I can get along with Paul Ryan, and if he doesn't get along with me, he'll have to pay the price. Right. I don't know how presidential that was. That seemed a little rough.
Barking at reporters and,
I think it was an attempt to do that with Christie in the vice presidential position behind him.
But
it seems supremely odd.
Michael?
Yeah, I pay close attention to New Jersey politics because I'm from a neighboring state, and Philadelphia is a media market that governs South Jersey. Chris Christie politically is in trouble tonight. 6 or 7 newspapers in New Jersey called for his resignation, citing his arrogance, opportunism, and hypocrisy. He won an enormous newspaper endorsement in New Hampshire, and the union leader said they got it wrong and they would like to take it back, long after the New Hampshire primary. So to see him standing next to Donald Trump, I think, is a last-ditch effort for relevance.
Let's listen into Ted Cruz.
Thank you, Texas. God bless the Lone Star State. And God bless the great state of Oklahoma. In 324 days, Marine One will depart Washington, D.C. with a very important dignitary on board, former President Barack Obama. This much is certain. January 20th, 2017 will be President Obama's last day in office. And on that day, we will have a new President of the United States. Tonight, this campaign enters a new phase. We began with 17 Republican candidates. Through the first 4 states, the race narrowed considerably. Tonight was another decision point, and the voters have spoken. Tomorrow morning, we have a choice. So long as the field remains divided, Donald Trump's path to the nomination remains more likely. And that would be a disaster for Republicans, for conservatives, and for the nation. And after tonight, we have seen that our campaign is the only campaign that has beaten, that can beat, and that will beat Donald Trump. I congratulate Donald Trump on his victories tonight. But we are the only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump once, twice, 3 times. "15 states have now voted. Every one of those states so far has been won by either Donald Trump or myself. Republicans, together we have a choice. We are blessed with a deep, talented, honorable field. For the candidates who have not yet won a state, who have not racked up significant delegates, I ask you to prayerfully consider our coming together, uniting. For those who have supported other candidates, we welcome you on our team, standing united as one. That is the only way to beat Donald Trump. Head to head, our campaign beats Donald Trump resoundingly. But for that to happen, we must come together. And to Republican primary voters in upcoming states, you too have a choice. In our nation's darkest hours, FDR told us that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. JFK told us to ask not what our country could do for us, but to ask what we could do for our country. America shouldn't have a president whose words would make you embarrassed if your children repeated them. Our president should make us all proud, should inspire hope in all of us. We can nominate a Washington dealmaker, profane and vulgar, who has a lifelong pattern of using government power for personal gain. Or we can nominate a proven conservative who has fought consistently for working men and women and to defend the Constitution. It's our choice. Donald Trump has pledged to expand Obamacare into socialized medicine, with the federal government controlling and rationing your health care. As president, I will repeal every word of Obamacare. Donald Trump promises to cut deals with Democrats and to continue the Washington cronyism. Just like he supported Obama's TARP Wall Street bailout. I will stand with the people of this country and end corporate welfare. Adopt a flat tax and abolish the IRS. Donald Trump funded the Gang of Eight. With your help, I led the successful opposition to the Gang of Eight's amnesty plan. Donald Trump supports Planned Parenthood. I will direct the Justice Department to investigate Planned Parenthood. Donald Trump promises to compromise with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer on Supreme Court nominees. I will never compromise away our religious liberty. And unlike Donald Trump, I will never compromise away our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Donald Trump pledges to be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians. As president, I will not be neutral. America will stand unapologetically with the nation of Israel. Donald Trump says he will keep in place the Iranian nuclear deal to try to renegotiate it. I will rip to shreds this catastrophic Iranian nuclear deal on the very first day in office. if you're angry with Washington, I understand. But Donald Trump has been part of the Washington corruption for 40 years. He's Harry Reid's favorite Republican candidate. And Jimmy Carter's. Just yesterday, it was reported that the New York Times has a secret tape recording of Donald saying that he doesn't mean what he's saying on immigration. That it's all flexible, that he won't build a wall, that he won't deport illegal aliens. But Donald refuses to allow them to release the tape. Donald, release the tape. If you're telling the New York Times editorial board that you're lying to the voters have a right to know. Enough with the Washington corruption, with the deception, with using government to benefit the rich and powerful at the expense of the American people. 5 years ago, I promised the people of Texas that I would fight with every breath in my body to stop Obamacare, to stop amnesty and to secure the border, to stop the debt that is bankrupting our kids and grandkids, to defend religious liberty, the Second Amendment, and the Bill of Rights. And I have kept my promise. That's why we were supported in this election by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. By Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, our campaign chairman. By former Governor Rick Perry, a true patriot. By nearly half of the Republican state legislators in Texas. And by thousands upon thousands of Republican women and grassroots activists. They know my record. They know me personally. They know my heart. And they know that I have kept my word to fight for them each and every day. America, I'll do the same as president. Together, we will repeal Obamacare. Abolish the IRS. Pull back the EPA regulators that are killing small businesses. Stop amnesty and secure the borders. And the result will be small businesses exploding, millions of high-paying jobs, wages going up, and young people coming out of school with 2, 3, 4, 5 job offers. From this day forward, let us together show that Reagan's love, optimism, and faith in the American people were not misplaced. Let us show that we will not let the American light go out, that we will fight for our Constitution, for life, and for freedom. You have shown that we remain a strong and just people, a people who do not give in to fear, but rise always in our righteous might to meet the challenges of the future. Together, we can do it. If we stand together and return to the free market principles and the constitutional liberties that built America. Once again, we can have morning in America. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.
Listening to Ted Cruz there give his victory speech for the state of Texas, also winning tonight in Oklahoma, according to our projections. Jeffrey Lord, a Trump supporter, what do you make of what you heard?
I was astonished, in truth. I mean, I like Senator Cruz, but I was amazed. I mean, he totally misrepresented Donald Trump on Obamacare. I mean, Donald Trump has said repeatedly he wants to repeal Obamacare, and there is Ted Cruz, as if all the rest of us don't have access to what's been said on the record here.
Well, I think
mean, that was astonishing.
Donald Trump has said that he will repeal Obamacare, but the issue is that he would replace it with something bigger,
No,
more
he said he
luxurious,
didn't
maybe more
want
huge.
it.
Here's the fundamental difference.
He didn't
Cruz
want to
is getting
repeal
at in that
Obamacare.
speech
That's the
between
problem.
Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. When there's been a big policy problem that's approached them both, Donald Trump has usually chosen or supported the more big government solution. You look at the bailouts.
All right,
Donald
look,
Trump was
Amanda,
for the bailouts.
Amanda,
Ted Cruz was
this
against
is-
them.
thi-
This is the fundamental
you
difference
have-
between those two candidates.
You cannot be running a presidential campaign. I mean, he spent a major bit of his time tonight and said, what was his campaign about? It was defeating Donald Trump. Now, that is not inspirational. I worked in that Morning in America campaign, and the Morning in America campaign,
One at a time. Let Jeffrey finish.
the Morning in America campaign was about that. It was about economics. It was recovery and all of the good things that were happening in the country. It wasn't about defeating Walter Mondale.
But I will say-
What Ted Cruz has spent his time doing here today is saying, I'm going to defeat Donald Trump. Help me. And this is what Marco Rubio has been doing. And where is Marco Rubio
I would
tonight?
say Amanda? Through the course of Donald Trump's candidacy, he has shown him a willingness, a frightening willingness, from where I sit, to embrace almost tyrannical levels of government power. Look at the threats that he's posed to free speech. I think that is the single most disturbing issue of Donald Trump. He has threatened to sue journalists who write negative stories about him. He has said the FCC should fine a conservative writer for writing negative things about him. He has threatened to sue Ted Cruz for putting his own statements
any of these
on
things,
the air.
any
That
of these
is
things
not
have to be dealt with in a congressional
Okay, now, Jeff.
Anything like that, anything that any president proposes, except for Barack Obama, who just has his pen in the phone, wants to do things, and they have to go through Congress. Ted Cruz is going to have to go through Congress.
Well, there's the executive order issue, and seeing how Donald Trump has campaigned, I think he would use executive orders to an order magnitude larger than even Barack Obama.
Let's bring
Well, this argument is a fantastic one to have, and I would have, side with Amanda that Trump is, I think, big government versus small government. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the argument that the Republican electorate is having. Trump is, I can't believe we're not talking about the fact that our potential nominee for president is a guy who has defended Operation Wetback, Japanese internment camps, religious tests.
Whoa. He never defended Japanese internment camps. Ever.
He has suggested that banning that.
No. What he suggested what he cited was Franklin Roosevelt's 3 proclamations the day after Pearl Harbor that had nothing to do with Japanese.
We should just point out for our viewers, Rubio right now, I think, is still leading in Minnesota. We're putting that up on the screen. Again, it is still early in Minnesota, but you have Rubio there, 36%, Cruz, 27%. Donald Trump, 20%, small amount, obviously, the vote in, but just interesting fact.
The problem is we're not having the argument about small government versus big government, and that's a really important fundamental argument to have, especially going into a general election against either of the two Democrats running. We're talking about the sort of crazy dog whistle policy proposals.
The dog whistle?
that Donald Trump well, actually, it isn't a whistle; it's a scream. It's a yell.
About what?
I've said this before. Donald Trump has tried to otherize every other candidate in this race. He's a liberal. He's a liberal. It falls perfectly in line.
What you said is liberal speak.
But he's doing it. He's acting. He's otherizing other candidates to sort of scare this very small part of the electorate who thinks that all of their problems are the fault of people who don't look like them. He's tapping into what is real, and I would argue he taps into it on the left as well as the right. That element exists on the left, and that's working for him.
Let's
and that's a real shame.
Let's talk about what he said about the Klan. I mean, here's a guy who disavowed this many, 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 many times. And you hear this statement from Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan today. I like Paul Ryan. We both worked for Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp would be appalled at this. The Republican, I hate to say this about the Republican establishment, but their view of civil rights is to tip the black waiter $5 at the country club. I mean, this is atrocious. This is atrocious. This is why Donald Trump has the ability to because he's not going to patronize people.
Well, hold on a second. First of all, there's a lot of things you said I could take you on about, but I want to be very, very clear. The things that Donald Trump has done, and not just in this race, are horribly offensive. You can go back with this guy for a long time. I want to talk. I want to talk. This is
I didn't
important.
say anything yet.
Oh, you breathe. You can go back to the Central Jogger case, where he came out and had innocent black kids winding up in prison.
Innocent kids.
Hold on a second. Innocent black kids. Listen, hold on a second. We have a big problem at this point now, because I agree with you about a lot. I think that we have taken him not seriously. We have not respected his voters. But there is a dark underside here. And Essie is right. He is whipping up and tapping into and pushing buttons that are very, very frightening to me and frightening to a lot of people. Number one, when he is playing funny with the Klan, that is not cool.
He didn't play funny with the Klan.
Hold a second. I know this man when he gets passionate about terrorism. I know how he talks about terrorism. The Klan is a terrorist organization that has killed...
A leftist terrorist organization.
You can put whatever label you want. That's your game to play.
No, that's your game to play.
No, they're not. We're not going to play that game.
No, we are going to understand history.
No. You need to take a serious look at the fact that this man is playing fast and loose and footsie. When you talk about terrorism, he gets passionate. He says, no, this is wrong. But when you talk about the Klan, oh, I don't know. That's wrong. And then you came on the air. And you said, well, this is just like when Reverend Wright was speaking.
Yeah,
Reverend Wright never lynched anybody. Reverend Wright never killed anybody.
Reverend Wright is an anti-Semite.
Reverend Wright never put anybody on a post. And you guys play these word games. And it's wrong to do in America.
It is wrong to understand that these are not leftists. They were.
What difference does it make if you call them leftists?
It makes a lot of difference, Dan.
Call them chipmunks. They kill people. And you don't play games with that.
You're right. And you don't hide and say that's not part of the base of the Democratic Party. That has been. They were the military arm, the terrorist arm of the Democratic Party, according to historians. For God's sakes, read your history.
I don't know. I don't care.
This whole attitude of dividing by race is still here, and this is how Democrats do the deal.
I don't care how they voted 50 years ago. I care about who they killed. And
I care about American history. It counts.
You have stood with Donald Trump, and you have made a case for Donald Trump when nobody else wanted to, and you've earned the respect of an awful lot of people. But when you do not acknowledge that he did not answer that question with the passion he's answered with other terrorist organizations, you do yourself a disservice, you do your kids a disservice.
He has made this point over and over and over again. This is a media thing here. Did he make a mistake when he sure, but he has said this many, many times. I've gone back and looked. He's well on record over and over and over again on this.
It's worse than that, sir. It's worse than that. That whole thing with those Central Jogger kids, he got the entire city of New York whipped up on this idea that these kids had done something wrong. And then when it turned out they were innocent, we all make mistakes.
Right.
He never apologized to those kids. And that's a stain on him. And you can walk through time after time where he's done stuff like that. The stuff he said about Native Americans being, criminal organizations and mafias. He said many racially offensive things.
What you're doing right here, what you're doing here is dividing people. We're all Americans here, Dan. You are dividing people. This is what liberals do. You are dividing people by race.
I am not.
This is what liberalism is all about.
The Klan divides people by race.
You have to divide by race.
The Klan kill people by race, and he had the opportunity, and he didn't do it tonight.
They did it to further the progressive agenda.
Why do you listen? That is, first of all, so absurd.
It is not
the Democratic Party of the South in the old days was a racist party, and you are correct, sir. They were a violent party, and you are correct,
sir. How do you think we got Woodrow Wilson elected?
But hold on a second. That's not the Democratic Party of today. So what are you talking about that for? You played these games.
It is the Democratic Party of today. The Democratic Party of today divides by race.
I have a kid, 7 years old.
Right.
He can't even watch. I used to want him to say, I don't want you watching the Kardashians. I want you watching the news so you can learn something. You know what? Watching all this nonsense in your party, he turns around and he says, Dad, you're a liar. He doesn't even know what the word means, but he sees so much vitriol from your party. He brings that into our house. Now we got to have him watch, Nick Jr. He can't even absorb civics because of what's going on in your party. The circus wing in your party. Do not play and tell Donald Trump, I know you. I trust you. Tell Donald Trump he needs, for my children's sake, for the children's sake of America, if he's going to lead this country, he needs to be as passionate about what is happening to people in my community as anybody else.
We have to be passionate about making sure that, as Robert Kennedy used to say, that this country is colorblind. We have to, as President Kennedy used to say in that Birmingham speech, that race has no place in American life or law. That's what we have to do, and we have lost that totally because the Democratic Party insists on dividing people by race, and it's wrong. It's morally wrong.
Well, I think this is going well. I will say this. There's a lot of blame to go around for the tone of this campaign, and when Ted Cruz, who embraced Donald Trump until he didn't embrace Donald Trump, and went after Marco Rubio for, he said, supporting amnesty, he was playing that game as well in some ways. I mean, it's not, it's not the same, but I mean, this has been a meme of the Republican race. Both parties have their issues, but we ought to focus on where we are in this campaign right now, and there's a little bit of a preview of it here. And we heard Ted Cruz say tonight that Donald Trump was a Washington deal maker, profane and vulgar, using his political power for private gain, part of the Washington corruption for 40 years. And so, Jeffrey, he is trying to wind your man into the Washington mess, and I think he's trying to recapture the outsider vote. And I think we're going to see more of this in the time to come.
That's true.
In a general election, do you think Donald Trump has a problem? Say it's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Does Donald Trump have a problem attacking Hillary Clinton as a Washington insider, as somebody who's part of the problem, who's been in power for so long, and yet nothing has changed, when Donald Trump himself has supported Hillary Clinton and given money to get Democrats? Do you think he has a weaker position than a Ted Cruz would have?
No, I don't think so, for the same reason Ronald Reagan didn't have a position, because he supported Harry Truman and Hubert Humphrey and health care that was far to the left of what Obama.
But he wasn't running directly against them. I mean, he's given money to Hillary Clinton. He's given money to Harriet Reid.
But I mean, his explanation. I mean, we've just been down this road so many times, and this has had no effect on the Republican electorate. I mean, I go back to the night we were here in New Hampshire, and looking at the exit polls, and he beat Ted Cruz by 12 points among those who self-described as very conservative. I mean, that's where that would show up, and it doesn't.
Just thinking about the conversation that Van and Jeffrey were having, which is obviously a passionately felt discussion, and it echoes discussions which, a lot of people have been having among Republicans and between Republicans and Democrats. Does it telegraph what this general election is going to be like?
Yeah. I mean, about absolutely.
the level of passion and anger and vitriol at times, and the scorch.
Yeah, go ahead. Illustration of this, because it was interesting. Oklahoma, the point was made, I think, by Dana or Jake, that it's the first state where it was pure Republicans and there weren't interlopers. Something odd happened on my radio program today. Relative to Massachusetts alone, I had 3 types of callers. One that said, I voted, even though I'm not a Republican, I joined the Republicans today because I wanted to vote for Donald Trump because I'm for Trump. Next caller, and they weren't in this succession, but another caller who said, I voted among the Republicans today because I can't stand Donald Trump and I wanted to go and vote against him. A third category that said, I voted in that particular primary because I think he's the weakest and I want to prop him up. The point being, it's all about Trump. Everybody's vote being determined to some extent based on how they feel about Donald Trump. And the way this is headed, should he become the candidate, it'll be a national referendum on Donald Trump.
But it's also going to be a referendum if Hillary Clinton runs, if she's the nominee, as the third term of President Obama. It's also in many ways going to be a referendum on President Obama. He needs Hillary Clinton to complete his legacy, for his legacy. And I think underlying all of this question about whether there's a dog whistle here from Trump, et cetera, KKK and all the rest, is we've had an African-American president for the last 8 years, and I think there are people who react to this issue, to Barack Obama. Race is under the surface here. And you can't say that people who support Donald Trump are reacting against Barack Obama. That's not necessarily true, but I think to disregard it.
Nia, and then we got to go.
I think you saw Trump tonight try to move away from what we saw over there in terms of some of the emotions from Van Jones. He called himself a common sense conservative. He called himself diplomatic. He talked about Planned Parenthood. He talked about infrastructure, which has been an Obama hobby horse, as well as Sanders and Clinton, and he called himself a unifier. I mean, I think, does that work? I don't know if that's going to work for the party, if that's going to work for the country.
Let's go back to Wolf. Wolf?
All right, Anderson, thanks very much. I want to update our viewers on the races won tonight by Republicans. First, Donald Trump, he's won 5 states: Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia. Ted Cruz, he's won 2 states tonight: Texas and Oklahoma. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton has won 6 states: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. Bernie Sanders has won 2 states, Vermont and Oklahoma. We have a key race alert now. We're going to update you on some of the outstanding races we're watching right now. In Vermont, 70% of the vote is in, very close between Donald Trump and John Kasich. 32% for Trump, 30.9% for Kasich. Look at this, only 524 votes different. That's with 70% of the vote in. In Arkansas, also close, 68% of the vote is in, but Donald Trump has a bigger lead, 34.3% to Ted Cruz, 28.9%. Trump is up by 12,854 votes. 68% of the vote is in. In Massachusetts, still outstanding, 80% of the vote is in. Hillary Clinton is in 51%. Bernie Sanders has 47%. 81% of the votes is in. We have 3 more states now, caucus states. We're going to update you on that right now. In Colorado, Democratic caucuses, 11% in right now. Bernie Sanders winning in Colorado, 56.6% to Hillary Clinton, 42%. In Minnesota, Bernie Sanders also ahead, but only 6% of the vote from the Democratic caucuses in Minnesota is in. 59.3% for Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, 40.6%. The Republican caucuses in Minnesota shows Marco Rubio. He's ahead, 79% of the vote is in, 37.3%. Ted Cruz in second place with 28%. Donald Trump in third place in these Republican caucuses in Minnesota, 21% for Donald Trump. So there are still some outstanding races, but several of clearly, Jake and Dana, have been resolved.
Well, first of all, let's look at this Minnesota contest. Marco Rubio, the results are not final, and they're still counting votes. But, I mean, that could be the first victory that Marco Rubio theoretically declares. It's still early.
And not just tonight. Ever.
Ever.
Right.
No, yeah, ever in Marco Rubio's history in presidential politics. So everything's hinging on Minnesota right now in terms of any sort of argument he might have. Now, that said, even if he wins Minnesota, that's still a pretty thin reed on which to hang a campaign at this point. And then, obviously, Bernie Sanders having some strong showings as well, both in the Minnesota Democratic caucuses and in the Colorado Democratic caucuses. Again, early results, we can't say anything for sure, but you have some good news for the underdogs, at least so far, in these results that are still outstanding.
Absolutely. And I should say that the Rubio campaign, just in texting with a senior source there, as we were watching these numbers come in, they feel very confident that they are going to win. But as you say, it is just one state. It's not that delegate rich. But they also are insisting at the end of the day, they are going to do pretty well with delegates, because we should, remind everybody that this is all proportional. And so even though he's not winning in a lot of states, he could do well. The one other thing I wanted to point out is on the Rubio point is what the Rubio campaign is saying, and we've heard it for the last several weeks now, is that John Kasich needs to get out of the race because he's a spoiler. And they point to Virginia, which we called for Donald Trump, where they show the percentages. The difference between Donald Trump and Marco Rubio is just a few percentage points. Mm-hmm. And John Kasich got like more than 9% of the vote. They are firmly of the belief, at least they argue, that those votes would have gone to Marco Rubio and he could have overtaken Donald Trump in Virginia.
John Kasich came in second in New Hampshire. He has just as much of a right as anybody to be running in this race. So it's
just the kind of tug of war that's going on behind the scenes in the push to have one singular opponent.
Virginia is a state where or a Commonwealth rather, where they allot the delegates proportionally, and there is not a threshold. So that
is of limited argumentative value. But let's go to Mark Preston right now, who can talk to us about the actual delegate count, because at the end of the day, Mark, this comes down to math.
It certainly does, Jake. Certainly you can describe tonight's Super Tuesday as one of emotion, one of momentum, and as you said, most importantly, one of mathematics. So what's at stake tonight when it comes to the Republican race for the presidential nomination? Let's take a look at this right now. 595 Republican delegates up for grabs. If we were to look at right now, Donald Trump has 84. He has collected 84 so far tonight. Ted Cruz has 35. Marco Rubio has 25. Now, let's put that all together. Year to date right now, Donald Trump has 166 delegates. Ted Cruz, 52. Marco Rubio, 41. You need 1,237 delegates to secure the nomination. On the Democratic side right now, Hillary Clinton has won 188 delegates tonight, Jake and Dana. Bernie Sanders has won 82. If you were to look at it year to date right now, Hillary Clinton has 747 delegates. Bernie Sanders, 168. You need 2,383 delegates to win the Democratic nomination. Now, we should note, on the Democratic side right now, not only does this include delegates that you are awarded for wins in the states, this also includes superdelegates. These are elected officials who have pledged their support to Hillary Clinton and, in some cases, Bernie Sanders, who will have a vote at the convention. So, as you said, Jake, it all comes down to math. And tonight, right now, the big winners, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, but there's still a lot more to be awarded throughout the night.
Thanks, Mark Preston, the politics executive editor for CNN. And Wolf Blitzer, so far right now, Donald Trump, 5 contests that we've projected will be in his bank. Hillary Clinton, 6. Sanders and Cruz, 2 apiece.
Including their respective home states of Texas and Vermont as well. I want to go over to John King, who's taking a closer look at a lot of what we're trying to understand what happened tonight. Obviously, very successful night so far for Donald Trump, very successful for Hillary Clinton, but not completely unsuccessful for Ted Cruz. He wins his second and third state.
Right, look, if we're waiting on Alaska, but if you look at them, and we're still waiting on Minnesota, but if you assume, let's look at Minnesota right now, we're at 79%, Marco Rubio at 37%, so it looks very good for him. It's a complicated system, which is why we haven't called it. We're waiting to get the final results. It's done by congressional district, but it looks like the possibility, you see that red, Marco Rubio could get his first win in Minnesota, again, as we count the votes. Ted Cruz now has 3, as he noted, winning Texas and Oklahoma tonight after starting the season in Iowa, and Donald Trump says, that's great. You guys got a combined 4 maybe, but I've got 11, assuming he gets Alaska at the end of the night tonight after 15 contests. And so Donald Trump has momentum on his side as the calendar moves forward. One thing we still haven't called yet, we're still waiting up here in Vermont. I just said Donald Trump could win this, but there's a close race here with Governor Kasich. So it is possible, if Kasich could squeeze out a win here, then the muddle in the middle, if you will, between Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich would continue, each pointing to the other campaign saying, you guys should get out. Kasich's running at least a strong second in Vermont right now. His campaign has already put out a memo tonight saying he's the only one who can win. Rubio campaign says he's the only one who can beat Trump. Cruz just said publicly he's the only one who can beat Trump.
Let's go to your home state of Massachusetts on the Democratic side. We still have not been able to yet project a winner. Look at how close it is between Hillary Clinton, 50.9%, Bernie Sanders, 48%.
Extraordinarily close, 84%, so we're still waiting for some votes. You see along the Vermont and New Hampshire border, mostly small towns up here, Bernie Sanders winning them, but Hillary Clinton winning where the votes are, if you will. We're still waiting for Worcester. We have 0% out of Worcester, 2.8% of the population. A lot of Democrats in Worcester, so we're waiting for that. We'll have to call up there and see what the delay is. You move into the city of Boston itself, we're up to 98%, so we're just about done in Boston. This is where Hillary Clinton gets her big lead, with a huge lead in the city there. And then you come down, I'm just looking at other places, New Bedford, you move down toward the southeast part of the state. This is a blue-collar town. As you start to head out to Cape Cod, Hillary Clinton with a big margin there. If you look, it's pretty typical. Each place we've gone, Hillary Clinton winning in the cities and in the suburbs right around them, but Bernie Sanders winning big in all the small rural areas. The Clinton campaign will be happy with this. As you get closer to New Hampshire, Lowell, an industrial city, now a high-tech area, moving up. It's a narrow win, but again, up in the place where Sanders has been doing well, and you move over to Lawrence as well. We're still waiting for Lawrence as we look at voters. Lawrence and Worcester as we wait to count.
John, we still have 7 contests outstanding right now. Maybe Marco Rubio will win his first state. Maybe John Kasich will win his first state. There are still 7 contests. We have a long way to go. Much more coverage right after this. Welcome back. I want to update you on the states that have been won by the respective Democratic and Republican candidates. First of all, on the Republican side, Donald Trump, he has now, according to our projections, won 5 states. Let's review: Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia. 5 states won by Donald Trump. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, he has won his home state of Texas and Oklahoma. 2 states won tonight by Ted Cruz. On the Democratic side, 6 states won by Hillary Clinton so far: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. Bernie Sanders, he's carried his home state of Vermont as well as Oklahoma. 2 states won by Bernie Sanders tonight. Let's get a key race alert on some of the outstanding contests right now. In Vermont, look at this, 74% of the vote is in. Trump is slightly ahead of John Kasich, well ahead of Marco Rubio's in third place, 32.2% for Trump, 30.7% for John Kasich. Only a difference of 705 votes. That's in Vermont right now. We're watching that closely. In Arkansas, it's also a contest. 79% of the vote is in. Trump is ahead in Arkansas, 33.8% to Ted Cruz, 29.4%. Marco Rubio in third place by 24.7%. But Trump does have a lead of 12,332. That potentially could be significant in Arkansas. In Massachusetts, on the Democratic side right now, 87% of the vote is in. Hillary Clinton is slightly ahead of Bernie Sanders, 50.6% to 48.2%. But that's a lead right now of 23,460 votes for Hillary Clinton. Once again, 87% of the vote is in. There are some caucus states we want to update you on right now as well. The Democratic caucuses in Colorado, only 16% of the vote is in. But look at this, Bernie Sanders is ahead of Hillary Clinton, 57.3% to 41.4%. In Minnesota, similarly, very early, only 6% of the vote has been counted, but Bernie Sanders is ahead of Hillary Clinton, 59.3% to 40.6%. In the Republican caucuses in Minnesota, bigger numbers have been counted already. 79% have been counted. And Marco Rubio has a significant lead, 37.3%. Ted Cruz, 28%. Donald Trump, 21%. This potentially could be Marco Rubio's first win if he goes on, Jake and Dana, to go ahead and win Minnesota.
Yeah, it's still a big if, still a lot of vote outstanding, but it could be something for Marco Rubio to hang his hat on. It was interesting, Dana, earlier when Donald Trump was speaking, taking questions from the press, perhaps trying to get the nation to imagine him as a president taking questions from the press. There was somebody standing behind him with interesting facial expressions, former New Jersey Governor Christie. It was interesting that he was there.
That's right. You know, a lot of people on the other side of the room have been talking about the fact that he looked like he was sort of auditioning to be a vice presidential candidate, perhaps. But the other thing that was fascinating is that this was going on just a couple of hours after what we were talking about earlier, this big call among donors who are trying to stop Donald Trump. And some of the donors on that call were Christie donors.
Sure.
Not the least of which is Meg Whitman, who is his national co-chair to try to raise money for him. She was part of the leadership of the call. So it's absolutely ironic that you have this guy, really a member of the establishment, standing with Donald Trump while you have so many people, money people especially, who supported Christie trying to take down Donald Trump.
And Christie getting a lot of blowback for his endorsement of Donald Trump back in his home state.
That's right. 6 newspapers, I believe, got together sort of en masse and wrote an editorial condemning Christie, actually saying he should resign because of this endorsement of Donald Trump. So he's getting a lot of blowback from his home state, which he would probably argue it's because they're all liberal newspapers. But even that aside, it's the people who did support him, supported his campaign, financed his campaign, who are trying to take down Donald Trump, the man he was standing behind.
We have heard from Donald Trump. We have heard from Ted Cruz. We have not yet heard from Marco Rubio. And just a few minutes ago, I did sit down and talk to him. And Senator Marco Rubio joins me now live from Miami. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jake.
So, not a great night for you. The past week, you've been relentlessly hammering Donald Trump. Tonight, he won state after state after state. Is it possible that your quarrel is not so much with Donald Trump as it is with Republican primary voters?
No, I think you're misanalyzing the night. Look, we're going to pick a major number of delegates in virtually every state on the map. Minnesota's still out, by the way, which is a state we think we're going to do very well in as well. Look at Virginia. I was trailing by 20 points in the latest poll. We're down to maybe a 2 or 3 point race there, and we're going to leave with almost as many delegates as he has. Tonight was supposed to be Ted Cruz's night. He said he was going to end the campaign tonight in the southern states. He'll walk away with 2 states, his home state, and where he won't get all the delegates, and his neighboring state in Oklahoma, where he also won't get all the delegates. I also think it's important to understand this is a very unique election. Donald Trump is not someone that the Republican support is going to come after me and say, hey, we need everyone out of the race. Let's rally around the front runner now for the good of our party. The contrary is true. The fight is to save the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln and Reagan, from someone who is not just a con artist, but who refuses to criticize the KKK. I mean, we cannot nominate someone that takes those positions, someone who shares Hillary's positions on Planned Parenthood, who says he's going to be neutral on Iran, who basically supports government-sponsored health care, which is indistinguishable from Obamacare. But this is a fight for the heart and soul of the Republican Party, and I will not give up this fight. I will go through all 50 states before we stop fighting to save the Republican Party from someone like that.
But, Senator, why are you the savior? You haven't won any states. Ted Cruz, you say he's won 2. Well, that's 2 more than you have, and he's actually won 3 total. And meanwhile, Donald Trump keeps winning contest after contest. What is your argument that you actually have a viable path to the nomination?
Well, first of all, I honestly and continue to believe, we see it, that there is no path for Donald Trump to get to 1,237 delegates. Every race that goes by that he can't do it, he falls further and further behind being able to meet that objective. I'm very confident that as we move into March 15 states, and even this Saturday and going into next week, that you're going to see us begin to win contests, but especially in the winner-take-all states. The terrain gets better for us now. Tonight was supposed to be Ted Cruz's big night, not a night where he won 2 states. He was supposed to have that southern firewall. It didn't happen. And some of those states were outperforming him tonight and getting more delegates than he's going to get. Tonight was not supposed to be my night. Tonight was supposed to be Ted Cruz's big night. We never said we were going to win on Super Tuesday and that this would be when we closed out our campaign. We have been prepared all along for an extended haul, and if you look at the map now of the states that are to come, that's where we're really going to start to catch fire. We feel great about the demographics and the makeup of the places we're going in, and we have more support than ever before. I mean, just in the last week, the people coming on board and signing up at our website, marcorubio.com, has just exploded. People saying they're with us, they want, and we are going to be in this state, in this race, even if it takes 50 states and every territory.
Senator Rubio, there are reports that your governor, a Republican, Rick Scott, is going to endorse Donald Trump this evening. What do you say to that?
Well, look, I have a lot of respect for Governor Scott. We would love to have him on our team. I don't know if those reports are true. I don't think they are, at least as of tonight. You know, so we would love to have his support, but I think presidential races, to be honest, I think Rick Scott obviously would be a great endorsement for anyone, but presidential races are not decided simply by that, especially here in Florida. We are incredibly confident of our team here and what we're going to do. Look what we did in Virginia. We were trailing by 20 points, 25 points in polls less than a week ago, and tonight we basically fought Donald Trump to a draw, and had it been a narrower field, we would have won Virginia. We are leaving Virginia tonight with virtually as many delegates as he has. And this is just after 5 days of pointing out repeatedly that this man is a con artist who is taking advantage of the unrest in this country, people that are really frustrated. He's pretending that he's some sort of man of the people. I hear him talk about immigration. This is a guy that used illegal immigrants to build the Trump Towers. Look at what's happening with Trump University, where he fraudulently induced students to sign up for this program. He's doing the same thing to the voters now, and every day that goes by that's exposed, the worse off he's going to be.
Senator, you keep saying that, and he keeps winning states, and you're talking about Virginia, and that's another state that Donald Trump won, and I'm just wondering if there's a certain amount of denial that you're in about this race.
No, Jake. No, because if you look, again, we're in the winner-take-all phase of this. You know this is about delegate count. This is not a traditional race. Usually in a race like this, you'd have a front runner, and at this point people would be saying, you need to drop out and rally around the front runner for the sake of the party. They're saying the opposite now. There will never come a time in this race where our supporters are asking us to get out and rally around Donald Trump. What people are saying is fight as hard as you can to save the party of Lincoln and Reagan from a con artist who refuses to criticize the KKK. If we nominate Donald Trump as our nominee for the Republican Party, it will be the end of the modern Republican Party. Hillary Clinton will smoke him in a general election, and the next 4 years are going to be no different than the last state for our country. I will fight as long and as hard as it takes to save this party and the conservative movement from someone like Donald Trump.
Senator Marco Rubio from Miami, Florida, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Jake.
Call it determination. Call it denial. Senator Marco Rubio, Anderson.
Fascinating discussion. We're joined now by Kevin Madden is joining us, Bakari Sellers. We haven't seen both of you for a while. Kevin Madden, what do you make of what you're seeing tonight and what you just heard from Marco Rubio? Clearly saying he's in it. He thinks there's a path forward.
They are, and this is, an old saying that I have in politics is that campaigns never really run out of ideas or reasons to run. They only run out of money. And I think as long as Marco Rubio believes he has the resources and a path that he's going to run. The path now, though, I think it's narrower and narrower on the idea of beating Donald Trump outright. That was plan A. I think plan B, and this is when you talk to the Rubio folks, they'll tell you that they're in this all the way until the end, that they believe that in a contested convention that they could be positioned to unite the party and win at a contested convention. So that is something that is something they're going to have to really start selling, not only their supporters and donors on, but the rest of the party.
But here's one question that I think Rubio supporters and even Marco Rubio himself has to ask. Not only is he in trouble as a presidential candidate, but given the polling in Florida right now that he has, he probably wouldn't be a good vice presidential pick. I mean, one test of being a VP candidate is that you have to deliver the state. He's not even doing that as a presidential candidate. So that's a big-time problem for him. And I think this is the scenario where the donors may lead the party a little bit just because Marco Rubio, at this point, objectively speaking, someone who likes him as a candidate, is not a good investment.
But he also had a tough sell tonight, even when Jake was speaking to him and trying to antagonize Ted Cruz. I mean, the big winner tonight is Ted Cruz. I mean, Ted Cruz won his home state. He won Oklahoma.
It seems like the really big winner is Donald Trump.
I'm just. Even Lindsey Graham. Even Lindsey Graham has come out recently and said as much as he despises Ted Cruz, even he would have to rally around Ted Cruz to stop Trump.
Wait, Lindsey Graham said that?
Yes, Lindsey Graham.
Believe it or not, I heard exactly something else from Lindsey Graham.
I'm sure you have. But that just goes to show that the winner tonight is Ted Cruz. And Marco Rubio can feign and attempt to say, and he's spun all of these losses very well over the past month and a half. I just think people are tired of him spinning his L's. He can't do it any longer.
Can I just say, Donald Trump was completely dominant tonight, okay? Completely,
again,
utterly, indisputably dominant.
I'm sure
tonight.
he wouldn't object to you saying that.
Exactly.
I think that's what he said earlier. And I'm pretty sure he's watching.
And I'm pretty sure he's watching. The other thing we all have to recognize now is that in Ted Cruz's speech tonight, he basically said everybody else needs to quit. He said we ought to prayerfully consider coming together as a party, which means everybody else ought to get out except for me. And you just heard Marco Rubio talk to Jake Tapper. So where you are now is Donald Trump up here and everybody else fighting some kind of guerrilla warfare and talking about, as you called it last night, I think the unicorn theory of when I was talking about the contested convention, right? This is a unicorn theory, but it is a theory that the Rubio campaign is now talking about openly with donors and with people like me, and thinking that even if they can't win, they can go to a convention and effectively disenfranchise everybody who's voted.
He's moving the goalposts. Sorry, I'll be really quick on this. First, he's going to win New Hampshire, then South Carolina, and then we'll do something on Super Tuesday. Now it's the brokered convention. He can't move the goalposts anymore. That is the last thing. And if anyone thinks that conservatives are going to wait that long to win, there's not that patience there.
It may be the best of bad choices from the standpoint of the party regulars, but the notion of a brokered convention where you ignore the candidate who got the most delegates and choose someone else seems to me like a prescription for disaster.
Exactly. Suicide. I mean, if you did that, I mean, the last convention that we had that was even remotely close to this was one I was at in 1976 with Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan. I mean, that was a battle right there on the floor of the convention. Gerald Ford, although he was busy, I question, inviting delegates to dinner with the Queen of England, from Kansas.
Jeffrey let it go. That was like 40 years ago. It was decided amicably, and everybody went off, and if not happy, lived to fight another day. I mean, what we're talking about here is exactly, I mean, if what we're talking about, I mean, this would be inconceivable. Right. I mean, it would be...
And then come up with like Paul Ryan or something? Yeah. I don't see how you do that.
No, I was just going to say, but the main ingredient for getting to a broker convention is you've got to win some states and you've got to deliver some numbers, and Marco Rubio has not. He is the master of pretending to be what he's not, right? I mean, he talks about his inaugural address when he comes in third.
Right.
You know?
No, Bill, but as they say, as the Minnesota caucuses go, so goes the nation. That's true.
I forgot that, David. I'm sorry.
We can't overstate the importance of this Never Trump movement that is starting. I mean, I think this is part of the Ted Cruz theory that eventually everyone coalesce around someone. I think he would have preferred it if they were coalescing affirmatively around his candidacy rather than as a mechanism to stop Trump. But nonetheless, it is happening. And 2 weeks is a lot of time to build on that, to continue to define Donald Trump. I mean, just in the last week, these comments about the KKK have happened that give people a lot of pause. I mean, there's discussions that I'm having with friends. Not only would Donald Trump set the conservative movement, the Republican Party back decades, but possibly the country with what you're seeing, these fights that we're having on camera. This is negative, and we want to stop it.
But I hear the Never Trump movement and all of those things, but do you know one thing that's greater than all of those things right now? Donald Trump voters. And when you talk about a brokered convention, and as much as this pains me to say, because I am not the biggest Donald Trump fan, as you can possibly tell. I know, it was hard. But you cannot just say and push aside all of these voters, these millions of voters who have come out, and he's won.
Right.
I mean, I said this earlier today. Look,
Not only come out, but stood in line and wait. You know,
and not only. And the question was, we had this question about his ceiling. We had these artificial ceilings, 25%, then 35%, and then could he harness this social media energy? And then could he get all the people who were coming to his rallies to the polls? And you know one thing? Donald Trump has proven in politics that he is one thing. He is a winner. And until somebody proves him wrong, this theory about a brokered convention or Paul Ryan or Mitt Romney, God bless Mitt Romney, none of it's going to work.
The big challenge is, you know, Amanda alluded to this, that there's 2 weeks is a lot of time. 2 weeks is not a lot of time when Donald Trump has spent the last 8 months, you know, digging in, and his support is sort of calcified. So many of these supporters are now, they're invested in seeing him win. So the idea that we can change the fundamentals of the race, I think, in 2 weeks is very, very hard. But, I mean, when you talk to the Cruz folks and you talk to the Rubio folks, they are not going to give up. They are going to, they keep using terms like long slog and the long journey to the nomination. And do not underestimate, to Amanda's point, I think just how strongly these folks feel that this is what you could be potentially witnessing if you don't fight this, is the destruction of the modern Republican Party.
But the more the elite dig in, the more the voters who support Donald Trump will say, "What are you doing?
There was a whole.
What are you doing? These are
It's
this
a
is
certification.
There was a candidate. It makes his case.
Right. Gloria's exactly right. Like, there is a Never Trump moment. I see it on Twitter, and it's all Republican pundits, columnists, lobbyists, people who are on this station. It is not voters. There's a huge disconnect.
Right.
And right now it's a hashtag movement, and putting a lot of faith in hashtag movements is not. I got to go quickly to Wolf. Wolf.
Anderson, thank you. Only a few states outstanding right now. We're watching them very carefully. Right now, we have another major projection. CNN projects Donald Trump is the winner in Arkansas in the Republican presidential primary. It's been close for hours now, but CNN now projects Donald Trump is the winner. Let's take a look at the actual votes in Arkansas as they've come in. Donald Trump with 82% of the vote in. He's got 33.8% to Ted Cruz, 29.4%, 24.7% for Marco Rubio. Is ahead by 12,370 votes. 82% of the vote is in. Donald Trump is the winner in Arkansas. Let's take a look at the states. He has won now 6 states for Donald Trump. Let's review: Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, and Arkansas. Ted Cruz, he's won 2 states tonight, his home state of Texas and neighboring Oklahoma. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton so far, she's won 6 states tonight: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. Bernie Sanders, he's carried his home state of Vermont. He's also carried Oklahoma, which is not a neighboring state from Vermont, but Bernie Sanders has done well in Oklahoma and Vermont. We're following all of these developments very, very closely. There are still other outstanding races in all of this, but I want to go quickly to Jake and Dana.
I think this is just another opportunity for us to underline the fact that Donald Trump has won 6 now contests of the 8 that we have declared, and this is just a momentous night in Republican Party politics. Somebody whom I think there's no question that almost every member of the Republican Party establishment opposes. and reminds the voters almost at every turn that they do not want Donald Trump to be the nominee, is just racking up victory after victory. And while it's premature to say he's unstoppable, he is sure almost running the table, 6 out of 8 right now, and who knows. And Arkansas, A, part of Ted Cruz's firewall in the South.
Absolutely.
And B, there were those in the Rubio campaign who saw Rubio in second place there and were hoping for a better showing in Arkansas.
That's right. And Arkansas, kind of has a populist history. Mike Huckabee, its former governor, was and is more of a populist Republican. But to your point about doing incredibly well tonight, Arkansas, Georgia, but then go north to Massachusetts. I mean, can you think of different electorates between, Massachusetts and southern states like Arkansas and Georgia? Obviously, the common theme is what we've been talking about all election year, at least certainly in the past several months, as Donald Trump has been doing well. People are just done with Washington, done with politicians, angry, and they want someone who is going to reflect, mirror, and express that anger.
And as has been noted on the panel, you could see this coming with the rise of the Tea Party. You could see this coming with the primary defeat of Eric Cantor in Virginia, the former House Majority Leader, to a relative unknown. This has been brewing for a very long time, and this is really a revolution. This is a rebellion against the Republican establishment. It doesn't matter how many members of the establishment say, no, 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 you don't want this guy, we don't want him. The voters are saying, yes, we do. And their Super Tuesday is now Trumper Tuesday. Let's go to Sarah Murray, who is at Trump headquarters in Palm Beach, Florida. Sarah, they've got to be celebrating 6 out of 8 so far, and it could be even more.
Jake, I think they're celebrating that you just came up with Trumper Tuesday. Look, Donald Trump, when he took the stage in his press conference, was clearly elated with how he is doing tonight. But even he said, wouldn't it have been nice to get a clean sweep, to just finish this thing off? That's clearly not what they got tonight. But now that they have Arkansas, they do have a number of states in their corner. And like Dana was pointing out, we are talking about very different states in different corners of the country here. And what Donald Trump was talking about tonight, what his campaign is talking about, is the fact that he is expanding the base of the Republican Party. And that is what they are also hoping will be the key to their victory here in Florida. They're hoping this is where they can finally kill off Marco Rubio. And in talking to their staffers here in Florida, they say, we already had the blue-collar voters. Now we're expanding to the country club Republicans. And if we can keep that up, they feel like they can win here. Back to you, Jake.
All right, Sarah Murray in Palm Beach with Donald Trump and his campaign. And now, Wolf Blitzer, you have an update on some of the outstanding campaigns.
We also have something that a lot of people have been waiting for, another projection right now. It's a big one for Marco Rubio. CNN projects that the Florida senator will win the Minnesota Republican caucuses. This is his first win in all of these contests so far. It's an important win for Marco Rubio. He wanted a win, and he now has a win, the Minnesota Republican caucuses. Let's take a look at some of the other outstanding races right now that are still, we're still waiting for more results. But once again, Marco Rubio wins Minnesota. In Vermont, we have not yet made a projection. 78% of the vote is in. Donald Trump is ahead by 788 votes. Very close. 32.3% for Trump. John Kasich, 30.8%. Rubio in third place, distantly 19.5%. You can see Minnesota, we've projected for Marco Rubio. He's got 37.3%, 28% for Ted Cruz, 21% for Trump. Rubio wins in Minnesota. Let's take a look at the Democrats. The outstanding races on the Democratic side right now as well. Let's put them up here on the wall. The Democratic races that we're watching in Colorado right now. CNN is watching very closely the Colorado caucuses. There you see it right there. Bernie Sanders with 58.6%. Hillary Clinton 40.3%. Only third of the vote is in Colorado. In Massachusetts, it's still a contest. In Massachusetts right now, there you see Hillary Clinton with 50.6%. Bernie Sanders with 48.2%. 94% of the vote is in. Hillary Clinton's got a lead of about 25,000 in Massachusetts. We have not yet projected a winner yet. Let's go to Minnesota right now. In Minnesota, we have that right over here on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders with 58.7%. Hillary Clinton with 41.3%. You see what's happening in Minnesota as well. The headline right now, though, is that Senator Marco Rubio finally, after all of these contests, he picks up a win A win is important, Jake. As you know, you just spoke to him.
That's right. A big, big victory for Florida Senator Marco Rubio. He finally has won a contest, the Florida Republican caucuses. Let's go to Manu Raju, who is at Rubio campaign headquarters in Miami, Florida. Manu, finally a win for the senator, and it sounded like from the interview that he's not going anywhere. He's staying in this contest.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. I think the Rubio campaign is relieved for a win, not because it necessarily puts him closer to winning the Republican nomination, but it puts to rest all the questions about whether he can win a state. They believe that's been sort of the analysis that's been wrong all along. They believe they are picking up delegates here tonight in some of these states, and that's going to go a ways to winning the Republican nomination. They believe, of course, that when it comes to March 15th and beyond, they absolutely have to win a state, those winner-take-all states. Now, of course, Florida is very important to him. March 15th, we've been talking about all night long that he needs to win here tonight on March 15th in order to secure all those delegates. But they are also looking very closely at North Carolina and Illinois, two other states that are winner-take-all states that day. They believe that they did pretty well in Virginia tonight, exceeded expectations, and Virginia and North Carolina have similar voting profiles, and presumably they could do better in North Carolina, win in North Carolina, which would go a long way towards getting towards that nomination. But Jake, watch for Rubio to intensify those attacks on Donald Trump over the next 2 weeks and shift away from Ted Cruz.
All right, Manu Raju at Rubio campaign headquarters in Miami. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, much more analysis, and we're going to call another state, another projection, back after this very quick break.
We have another major projection we want to report to you right now. Take a look at this. Bernie Sanders wins the Colorado Democratic caucuses. Another win for Bernie Sanders. Let's take a look at the votes in Colorado as they've come in right now in Colorado. Bernie Sanders has 58.2% to Hillary Clinton's 40.8%. 36% of the vote is in, but Bernie Sanders, we project, is the winner of the Democratic caucuses in Colorado. Let's take a look at the states won on the Democratic side first. Hillary Clinton has won 6 states. Reviewing: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas. Bernie Sanders, he's won 3 states tonight: Vermont, Oklahoma, and Colorado. On the Republican side, Donald Trump, he's won 6 states so far: Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, and Arkansas. Ted Cruz, he's won 2 states: Texas and Oklahoma. Marco Rubio has also won Minnesota. That's the first state he has won. Let's have a key race alert on where we stand right now in some of the outstanding contests that we're awaiting results. In Minnesota, on the Democratic side, the Democratic caucuses, a third of the vote is in. Bernie Sanders has a nice, comfortable lead with 58.7% to Hillary Clinton's 41.3%. 2/3 of the vote is out. In Massachusetts, on the Democratic side, it's close. 95% of the vote is in. Hillary Clinton has 50.5%. Bernie Sanders, 48.3%. She's up by 22,115 votes. 95% of the vote is in. In Vermont, on the Republican side, there's still a contest. There, 78% of the vote is in, but Donald Trump is ahead. 32.4% to John Kasich, 30.8%. Marco Rubio, he's in third place right now with 19.4%. 3 important contests that we're watching right now. I want to go over to the Magic Wall. John King is watching what's going on. 3 contests left to go. So there are winners, and finally Marco Rubio gets on the board.
He'll be grateful for the people of Minnesota. He finally gets a win. How does he project that going forward? Well, his campaign says, we'll see you in Florida. You just heard Manu Raju say they think they can win in Illinois. They think they can win in Michigan. Those are all down the road a little bit. We'll see. But for now, Ted Cruz says he should get out of the race. Marco Rubio says, I've got a state. We're waiting to see, just to be sure, up here in Vermont as we look for the final results here. John Kasich was hoping to get a win tonight. Donald Trump has held that narrow lead as they fill them in, but it's a slow count in Vermont tonight. We're waiting for that. But the big picture, Wolf, if you look, is it's a lot of Donald Trump on this map. 3 states for Ted Cruz, 1 state for Marco Rubio. Donald Trump. And we're still waiting on Alaska tonight. Donald Trump expects to win in Alaska, but we'll see what happens late tonight when those results start to come in. But Trump making the case, as you heard him a short time ago, that the party should now unite around him. It's not going to happen, but Trump is beginning to make that case, and the math is convincingly in his favor. This is just tonight what we've allocated so far. If you see these numbers at home and you're a little confused, these are the number of delegates we've been able to allocate so far. Those numbers will update during the night as we get the results. Some of this is done on a congressional district basis. Flip over to the Democratic side, and again, Secretary Clinton, very happy with this map. Very happy so far tonight. She's winning.
John,
margin
hold
in the
on one moment, because I want to report to our viewers we have another major projection right now. And CNN projects Bernie Sanders is the winner in the Minnesota Democratic caucuses. This is his fourth win of the night. Bernie Sanders doing very well in Minnesota. He's also won in Vermont, his home state. He's won in Oklahoma. He's won in Colorado. He's now won in Minnesota as well. 4 wins for Bernie Sanders, 6 wins for Hillary Clinton, John King, right now. So this is important. It's a race on the Democratic side as far as states are concerned.
It is, and I think the only one left that we haven't called is Massachusetts. I was just texting some people up there. I have a lot of friends in Massachusetts, and both Sanders and Clinton supporters believe, they were telling me, they believe that Clinton is going to narrowly win this state, but we only got 98%. We've got a very close race here, obviously. In the delegate math, it'll be a pretty even split, but both up there as we wait the final votes, it's just texting with people, again, supporting both candidates who think they believe Hillary Clinton will win a narrow victory here, but we'll keep counting them. But if that's the toll for the night, if you look at it like this, as you noted, Sanders wins 1, 2, 3, 4. Hillary Clinton wins the rest, including a dominant performance among African Americans across the South. That is what the Clinton campaign is most happy about tonight. And again, she's going to pick up a delegate lead in the race as you go forward. But, Wolf, we got a ways to go still.
Well, let's not forget Bernie Sanders. He has a lot of money. He raised $42 million in February alone. All of a sudden, the Sunday night CNN debate in Flint, Michigan between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, John, that takes on added significance. It's getting close out there between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Right? And he's not walking away by any means.
He's not going anywhere. He has money, and he believes we're about to move to more favorable ground. The Sanders campaign, if you look down here, they understand Hillary Clinton has relationships going back decades in the African-American community in the South from her days as First Lady of Arkansas, from her husband's days as president. So the Sanders campaign was tough sledding for them. They believe when they get back up here into the industrial Midwest, the terrain is better for them. So the Flint debate is important. This is an estimate, Wolf, based on the contest. We still haven't allocated them all, but tonight's going to end something like this, somewhere in the ballpark of, this is pledged delegates, won on primary and caucus day, including today, with Hillary Clinton at 580 or so, Bernie Sanders at 435 or so. Relatively competitive race, but she's starting to stretch it out here. The one thing, the Sanders campaign gets mad when you do.
Let's play it out the rest of March. Right. We're now into March. Let's play it out, what potentially could happen as far as delegate count between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
So I'm not going to bring the superdelegates into the equation just yet. If you look at the rest of March, it's a lot of states. And now that when I push the button, they all go to Clinton. So the Sanders people at home get mad at me when you do that. They all just turn one way. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you mentioned the debate in Michigan. This is a huge state for Bernie Sanders. They understand it. Let's, in a hypothetical, give it to Bernie Sanders. That would be 55-45. We're allocating the delegates. Ohio is another big battleground. Secretary Clinton feels very strong. Her team feels very strong about this state. But it's a place where Sanders says he will try to compete. This is really the key for Bernie Sanders. He has to do this. He has to make a point in the Midwest, in the big delegate basket states, to prove that if she has the base down here in the South, he has to prove that outside of New England, he's got another base, that it's not just going to be a state here and a state there and a state there, that he can pick up a region of the country and be strong. If he does that, you notice, again, she would still be stretching
He's looking at states like Kansas and Nebraska as well. He thinks he could do well there.
And so if you take Kansas and switch it over, fewer delegates at stake, but if he can pick those up, they are looking at those states. If you pick that up, again, he inches a little bit closer. Because of the proportional rules for the Democrats, though, Hillary Clinton would still get her share. Just like he's getting his share, she narrowly wins Massachusetts tonight. If that's where it ends up in a few minutes, he'll get roughly half the delegates.
What about out in the West, Idaho, Utah, Arizona?
These are places that will be competitive. Again, the Clinton campaign believes it will have momentum by the time this shows up. But if Sanders could pick off another one here, relatively small delegate, 13 versus 10 when you flip them over. You could come in here to Utah. Again, if you flip it over, and Clinton supporters are watching saying, hey, wait a minute, we're going to win some of those states. They may well. Just for the sake of argument, as we try to see how competitive the race could be going forward. I just want to say one thing, though. Yeah. At the moment, as long as she keeps winning, now, this doesn't happen until you get to the convention. You only use them if you need them. So Sanders' campaign gets mad when we even say this. But at the moment, in her back pocket, she has 468 superdelegates. These are elected and appointed Democrats who get a vote at the convention. Now, the Sanders campaign gets mad saying, hey, you shouldn't count them because they can change their mind, and yes, they can. But these are publicly declared. 468 superdelegates have publicly declared for Hillary Clinton. 21 have publicly declared for Senator Sanders. So as long as she keeps winning, they're going to stay on her side. And yes, they're not pledged delegates. They're not won on primary and caucus day, but they are a huge advantage to Hillary Clinton if she needs them down the road. And again, as long as she keeps winning the majority of the states, she'll hold those in her back pocket. It's like having an ace in the hole.
John, hold on for a moment, because right now we're getting ready for another major projection. CNN projects Hillary Clinton is the winner in Massachusetts. This state has been outstanding now for the last several hours, but this brings to 7 the number of states she has picked up tonight. Massachusetts is a win for Hillary Clinton. Take a look at the states she's won: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and now Massachusetts. 7 states for Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders, though, he's doing well tonight as well. He's captured 4 states: Vermont, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Minnesota. 4 states indeed. This is a significant moment. I got to tell you, Jake and Dana, as we're looking at this Democratic contest, the delegate count, John King just laid it out. This is a race. This is a contest between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. It's by no means over.
Absolutely not. And certainly Bernie Sanders, with the money that he raised last month, as has been pointed out, and the fact that he is winning states, including most recently, you just called Minnesota and Colorado, 2 states that Hillary Clinton did not win 8 years ago, by the way. Bernie Sanders able to win them tonight. There's no reason why, as you heard some Democratic establishment figures talking about, maybe he should get out of the race. There's no reason why he should get out of the race. It's still a race.
Absolutely. You know, at the beginning of the night, you and I were talking about the fact that Bernie Sanders came out early after his Vermont win, maybe because that was obviously a sure thing. Maybe he wouldn't have other things to celebrate. Well, he does.
Oh, yeah.
He's got 3 additional states to celebrate, as you said: Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Colorado. And I'm getting emails from Hillary Clinton sources saying, well, just don't forget, it's all proportional, so you have to look at the margins. It's all about delegates. And even in the places where she hasn't won, she's still adding it up, so on and so forth.
But it works the other way, too.
But it works the other way, too.
Right.
Exactly. And Bernie Sanders and his people, you heard Breonna Keeler reporting tonight, saying that they have the money, they have the resources, they have the organization, they have the enthusiasm. They're not going anywhere, and why should they?
You know, it's interesting. Earlier today, I was speaking to the campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and I was talking about the fact that he is co-hosting a fundraiser for Clinton, for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, with a bunch of lobbyists. Why are you doing this with a bunch of lobbyists, Goldman Sachs, NRA lobbyists? Doesn't that feed into Bernie's narrative? And he said, basically, Bernie's raising a lot of money. We got to compete. Let's go to Wolf Blitzer now.
All right, John, thanks very much. We're standing by to speak to Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Ted Cruz is here. He's going to be speaking with us. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. So the results are in on all of these states, basically. We're still waiting for Alaska. They start their caucuses at the top of the hour. I want to go right to Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Senator Cruz, congratulations on your 2 wins tonight. You won in Texas. You also won in Oklahoma. What's your plan on going forward? Because you got a long road ahead of you. Donald Trump has done better than you today.
Well, thank you, Wolf. Tonight was a great night. You know, what we've seen throughout the entire course of this primary has been a winnowing process. A year ago, we started out with 17 Republican candidates, and the field has narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And I think tonight will serve to narrow the field even further. At this point, we have had 15 states that have voted. And I am the only candidate that has beaten Donald 3 times, has beaten him in Iowa, has beaten him in Texas, has beaten him in Oklahoma. And for the 65-70% of Republicans who recognize that Donald Trump is not the best candidate to run against Hillary Clinton, that in all likelihood, Donald Trump gets walloped by Hillary Clinton.
Marco Rubio won a state tonight as well. So you're not the only Republican who has managed to beat Donald Trump.
Well, but nobody has beaten him in 3 states, in 3 very, very different states of Iowa, Oklahoma, and Texas. And the path to beating him is for us to unify. Listen, if we remain divided, then in all likelihood, Donald Trump becomes the nominee. That result was made clear tonight.
So do you want
I think
Rubio?
Donald has a hard ceiling of 35 to 40%.
Do you want Rubio to drop out?
Well, listen, I think every candidate is going to have to assess the results tonight, have to look across and assess, do they have a path to victory? To win the nomination, you've got to be able to get to 1,237 delegates. That is a high threshold. And I think every candidate is going to have to look at this, prayerfully consider it. And I do believe the other candidates are interested in this country, are putting this country first. And if they don't see a path to coming forward, it is my hope that we unite and come together, because that is the only way we defeat Donald Trump. If Donald Trump's the nominee, Much of the media will be thrilled. Much of the Democrats will be thrilled because in all likelihood, Hillary wins. In all likelihood, we lose the Senate. We lose races up and down the ballot, and we lose the Supreme Court for a generation.
Have you spoken?
I don't want to see that happen. I want to see...
I was going to say, Senator, have you spoken to John Kasich? Have you spoken to Dr. Ben Carson about possibly trying to encourage them to drop out?
You know, I think each of the candidates are going to assess the results tonight. They're going to visit with their teams, and they're going to give it quiet, prayerful contemplation and reflection, and I'm going to allow them time to do that. But at the same time, it is my hope that we as Republicans come together, because if we don't, and if Donald Trump wins this nomination, I think the results for the next generation would be extraordinarily dire. It is a mistake for Republicans to nominate a candidate who agrees with Hillary Clinton on a host of issues, who agrees with Hillary Clinton in support of President Obama's Wall Street TARP bailout, who agrees with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders that Obamacare should be expanded to government-controlled socialized medicine with the federal government in charge of your health care.
Donald Trump, he says all the time he's going to repeal and replace Obamacare right away.
Sure, but the reason he wants to repeal it is he thinks it doesn't go far enough. That's actually what Bernie Sanders says, too. What Donald Trump has supported for 20 years is socialized medicine, the federal government in charge of everyone's health care, and in every country on earth where that's been implemented, it leads to government rationing. It means if you're a senior, the government decides whether you get a hip replacement, whether you get a knee replacement, what kind of end-of-life care you want.
But he says he wants private health insurance, and he says it should be allowed without state boundaries, go all over the country and let the health insurance companies compete. He says he doesn't want socialized medicine.
Wolf, you're a good enough journalist that you know he has said dozens and dozens of times on television that he wants the government to pay for everyone. I mean, that is a simple fact. You're right. In the last debate, he ran away from that position and suddenly supported buying insurance across state lines, which, by the way, I've been advocating for a long time. But his position for 20 years, in Donald Trump's own words, he says he is a, quote, liberal on health insurance, that everyone should get health insurance. It should be mandatory. He supports the individual mandate, and the government should pay for it. And if the government pays for everyone's insurance, the government controls everyone's health care. That has been his position. It is, by the way, exactly what Bernie Sanders' position is. On the other hand, my position is we will repeal Obamacare. And I'll tell you, if you're a small business owner, Donald Trump's socialized medicine will be even more burdensome than Obamacare. It will kill jobs. It will drive down wages. And we need to bring jobs back, not have more government regulations killing them.
Senator Dana Bash has a question for you. Dana, go ahead.
Thanks, Wolf. Senator, something I've been thinking about listening to you and the way that your campaign and your rhetoric has changed really incredibly so over the past several weeks and months is if you think Donald Trump is so antithetical to conservatism, what took you so long to say so? Because you really cozied up to him for the majority of this campaign.
Well, listen, Dana, for the last couple of months, I've been taking Donald on directly. And in fact, at the last few debates, prior to this one last week, nobody else was willing to jump into the fray. And in order to, the way this primary is played out, it's a winnowing process. And so there were some candidates that took Donald on when there were 17 of us, and they didn't have a strong enough base, and you couldn't do that. From my end, I needed to build my base of support. I needed to take care so that I was on a strong foundation first before I could take him on, and that was a natural process. But let's be clear, this is now winnowed down that the only way to beat Donald Trump is to go head-to-head. Head-to-head, I beat Donald, and I beat him resoundingly. You know, just today, CNN, y'all came out with a poll. It shows Donald losing to Hillary by 8 points. Your very same poll shows me beating Hillary.
But, Senator, you know politics so well, and you know the adage that you have to define somebody before they define themselves. Donald Trump, not only defined himself as a conservative, he defined everybody else. So, in retrospect, did you wait too long to be talking about what you just said to Wolf? He's a liberal on health care. He is for socialized medicine. He wants to bail out Wall Street. I mean, hasn't the train left the station in terms of the perception of him that you're not going to really get that through to voters?
Look, not remotely, and this is an ongoing conversation. You know, let's take another issue, immigration. Donald has talked a lot about immigration. He uses a lot of angry rhetoric. But if you look at his actual record, Donald funded the Gang of Eight. that was behind the massive amnesty plan. Donald funded 5 of the members of the Gang of Eight, gave them over $50,000. And just yesterday, the news broke that the New York Times has a secretly recorded tape of Donald telling the New York Times editorial board that he doesn't believe what he's saying on immigration. He doesn't intend to do it. He doesn't intend to build a wall. He doesn't intend to deport people here illegally. Now, the Times says they won't release it without Donald's permission. The last 2 days, I've been calling on Donald to release that. There are one or two things that may be the case, Dad. And maybe he didn't say that, in which case he should be thrilled to release the tapes because it will exonerate him and show he's innocent. But Donald hasn't done that. And I think the reason he hasn't done that is because what's been reported is exactly right. And if Donald is telling the New York Times in Manhattan that he is lying to the American people on immigration, I think the voters have a right to know that, and they have a right to know that sooner rather than later.
If he's the nominee, will you support him?
I will support the Republican nominee, period, the end, but I don't believe he's going to be the Republican nominee. I think we're going to unite to prevent him from being the nominee, because if he's the nominee, he may be the one person on the planet that Hillary Clinton can beat.
Are you ready to go all the way to the convention?
You know, I don't think we're going to have a brokered convention. What I believe is going to happen is that tonight continued to winnow the field, that there are an awful lot of Republicans sitting back saying, it is time for adult leadership. We need to step up and say enough is enough. Don't throw away this election. We are going to beat Hillary Clinton unless we nominate Donald Trump. And I think you're going to see the 65 or 70% of Republicans who believe that coming together. And for everyone who supports other candidates, let me welcome you and invite you to come together. If we stand united, just like in 1980 with the Reagan coalition, if we stand united, that's how we beat Donald Trump, but it's also how we beat Hillary Clinton and how we turn this country around.
Thank you very much, Senator. Congratulations on your 2 wins tonight. Once again, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Jake and Dana, back to you.
You know, it's so interesting hearing all the Republicans, including the candidates and the fundraisers and the donors, all the people who don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee, and all of them try to explain why their timing has been so off, why their attacks have been so late. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it was pretty apparent that Donald Trump was a force back in August and September, and they just were convinced. The entire establishment and almost all of the Republican candidates were just convinced he was going to self-immolate based on no evidence.
They were convinced of that, and for Ted Cruz in particular, he was convinced that because he had never done this before, Trump had never run for office at all before, that he would fade away, and that fervor, that anger at Washington would ultimately go to him, since he has been the guy standing up for Washington and standing up to Washington from within Washington and doing all the things that the base wanted him to do, but it didn't happen.
And all the Republican candidates who did go after him initially ended up getting stomped by Donald Trump. There's Anderson, there's a veritable elephant's graveyard of Republicans who have taken on Donald Trump.
There certainly is. Let's try to kind of reset things. Let's just kind of take a step back, look at the night so far. David, Gloria, I mean, what has changed? Where do things stand?
Some things haven't changed. The front runners are still the front runners. Donald Trump had a very strong night from north to south, won a bunch of states, still in command on his side of the fight. Hillary Clinton's southern firewall held. She won all 6 of those states, and she won Massachusetts. She won those southern states with the help of African-American votes, overwhelming support there. But in a state like Massachusetts, right next to New Hampshire, where she got clobbered a few weeks ago, she came away with a victory in a state that really has very few African-American votes. So she's in command of this race. She's got a growing lead, and it could go all the way to May before she clinches, but it's going to be hard for Bernie Sanders to dislodge her now. And then Marco Rubio, I think, was the big loser on the Republican side.
And yet the race itself has not really, I mean, as much as Ted Cruz hopes it will with prayerful reflection, it has not really widowed down a lot.
No, it isn't. And I think we ought to take just a moment to step back and take a look at the Republican Party right now. Because I don't know whether you want to call it in turmoil or in chaos or just completely falling apart, that I've covered politics for a long time, and I didn't cover Barry Goldwater in 1964, okay, but I can only imagine that this is something like that, where a party finds itself with a front runner that is hugely supported by the base of the party, that the party elites don't like, and yet they can't seem to come up with anybody who they believe they can rally around as a credible alternative.
Well, let's actually turn to our Republicans here. And Jeffrey Lord, how would you describe the state of the Republican Party?
Rush Limbaugh said today that a lot of the Trump folks see what's happening here and their support for Trump is the only way to take control of the party back from party elites. He cited, and this is a book that certainly I've read since it first appeared in the American Spectator, a book called The Ruling Class by a Boston University professor called Angelo Codevilla. And he talks about how basically over the last 50, 60 years, we've got the country class, which is the people out in America itself, and the ruling class, people who went to the same schools, they got the same cultural experiences, et cetera, and they consider themselves to be smarter, morally and intellectually superior. They've got the right to run things, and that the people out in the countryside are a bunch of idiots. And at long last, you got all these people out in the country who are saying, hey, enough of this, you know, no more. And so they look at Donald Trump as their vehicle to express that disagreement.
Well, I mean,
And
that
they're pretty
sounds
passionate
like
about
almost
it.
revolution then. I mean, if you're looking for a word to describe, I mean, a class which
Right.
has been sort of ignored and mocked.
Right. I mean, there's a
overthrowing
lot of
ruling
class stuff going on
But
here.
I would say I think there's one single issue that has roiled the Republican Party really since 2006, and we've seen the GOP civil war play out again and again and pick the fight. But the single most clarifying issue that causes this, I think, is the issue of illegal immigration. So at least now there's two candidates with Donald Trump and Ted Cruz who have taken a fairly hard line on immigration. That seems to be the consensus, if there is one, among GOP primary voters. But this has been an ongoing thing. I mean, since 2006, when we had the McCain-Kennedy bill, and then we renewed that with the Gang of Eight, which ruined Marco Rubio as a candidate. That once this issue gets worked out, maybe we will be coming together as a party once
Kevin
again.
Mann, just briefly, civil war?
Well, I think it's an existential crisis right now within the party. But to Jeffrey's point, we have seen the power paradigm shift now. Grassroots conservatives over the elites.
We got to take a quick break at the top of the hour, just about 4.5 minutes from now. Polls close in Alaska. We'll see if we're able to make a projection. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. There's another Republican contest hanging in the balance just minutes from now at midnight Eastern. The GOP caucuses wrap up in Alaska. We're going to start looking for results in Alaska. Donald Trump went into Alaska with an advantage, the endorsement of the state's former governor, Sarah Palin. Let's see where we stand right now in the race for the presidency here in the United States. States won tonight on the Republican side. Donald Trump, he has won Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, and Arkansas. Impressive wins for Donald Trump. Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, he's carried his home state of Texas as well as Oklahoma. Marco Rubio finally got on the boards. He carried Minnesota, the caucuses in Minnesota. It gets one state tonight. Hillary Clinton has done well tonight. She has won 7 states: Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and Massachusetts. Bernie Sanders, he's done well as well. Vermont, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Minnesota, 4 states for Bernie Sanders. We have a key race alert on an outstanding contest right now. That outstanding contest, well, first of all, American Samoa. Hillary Clinton has won American Samoa. The Democratic caucuses, there are still 6 delegates from American Samoa, the U.S. territory in the Pacific. In Vermont, it's still up in the air. 84% of the vote is in on the Republican side. 32.5% for Donald Trump. John Kasich, 30.6%. Marco Rubio, he's in third place at 19.4%.